Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and it's time for another Superhero Rewind commentary on the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. And joining me tonight, as always, is my sidekick, Austin, the Day Ghost. Wow, look at all the lightning going on in the background.
Oh, can you even see it?
Yeah.
Yippee.
Looks like there's going to be a mad storm back there. It's madness.
Yeah, the big twist to this is I'm going to run out of power. I'm going to lose power like halfway through.
Oh man, I hope that doesn't happen again. That's never fun in the middle of a commentary. Are you sure it's not an interdimensional rift?
It might be.
Is it star-shaped?
Well, there's a guy outside my window with pizza balls.
Oh.
I don't know if that means anything.
Well, you should probably hand him your credit card because Pizza Papa always gets paid.
Well, he's punching himself just in like the back alley here.
Oh, okay. Well, you probably have nothing to worry about then.
No,
at
that's
least
a
not
pretty
for the
sane
next
thing
3
to
weeks.
see in a back alley.
Tonight, Austin and I are going to be watching and talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which I keep thinking is and the Multiverse of Madness, but he's not. He's in it. He's hip deep in the Multiverse of Madness, Austin.
Mm-hmm. It should have been at the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, maybe it's across the Multiverse of Madness, or that would be the sequel to this.
Mm-hmm. No, it has to be into the Multiverse of Madness first. He's not just in; he's into.
You know what? With the Spider-Verse movies and this movie, I have a little irritating pet peeve with that, with the preposition thing, which is you're in a dimension that's part of the multiverse. You're already in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whenever anybody in this movie says, "Oh, are you from the multiverse?" I'm like, "Yeah, and so are you."
But
the question you should be asking is, "Are you from a parallel dimension?"
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, I think the issue here is that Spider-Man is in the Spider-Verse, Doctor Strange is in the multiverse, but now he's into the Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, okay. Well, what is the madness referring to? Just Wanda, or the multiverse itself as an idea is so crazy and brain-breaking that it's madness?
I mean, we all go a little mad sometimes.
And is there enough madness in the movie for it to justify that title?
I mean, we could have an entire GNN about MCU titles like that, especially with the war movies.
Absolutely. Well, and just if any of these ever get weird enough, you know, in general.
Yeah.
Because I think that title might be promising a little bit more than it could possibly deliver on for a, for a wide audience.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's a lot more out there than the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see somebody like you, I could see a Doctor Strange fan going, "Oh, don't put your madness in your title if you're not going to go a lot more, crazy Ditko-y."
Mm-hmm.
It does a lot more than the first one does, certainly.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, thanks for joining us if you're watching live. Thanks for watching after the fact. As always, we're going to watch the movie from start to finish, and we will interact with you if you're watching live as much as we can. If there's some aspect of this that you want us to make sure and talk about, or you just want to get your feelings heard, you can leave a super chat any dollar amount, or you can leave a regular question, and we will try to chat with you as we move along. We ended up doing this movie this week because we wanted to tackle something more recent, and this won the poll. So here we are. So that's why we're doing the commentary on this before we've done a commentary on the first Doctor Strange. But I did a a review a couple of years ago on that movie. Or maybe it was even 3. I can't remember. It all runs together for me now, Austin. It feels like it wasn't that long ago, but an off the cuff rewind. And when it's been somewhat recent with those, I've been wanting to kind of put off the commentaries anyway. So
I think that was your first one, if I remember right. The first of the non-scripted,
or maybe the second or third. The first of those I remember distinctly was, wow, that's really bright.
Yeah, I saw that on the camera in the little corner on Skype.
The first one I remember distinctly, but because this was the movie that made me decide to do that series, was Lego Batman.
Oh, okay.
Which I did, and also Doctor Strange. I can't remember if I did that live or not, because at some point I started doing them live.
Mm-hmm.
And they were pre-recorded before that, but that was a really early one.
Yeah,
not
for sure.
That's interesting to anybody, but and I'm not doing those anymore. That has turned into now this format. But anyway, so as always, we jump around. We might do sequels to things before we actually get to the first one. We did that with X2. We also haven't done an X-Men commentary yet. We did. Well, I guess I already did 89, so then we did Return, so that's not out of sequence. But we've had some other things like that.
Spider-Man 2.
Oh, that's true. And that was like that, too, where I did an off-the-cuff Spider-Man not all that long ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Austin, this is surreal to me because it feels like not that long ago that we did the spoiler cast on this.
Yeah, I mean, with this only 2 years old.
And it's interesting to finally be here with it. Yeah, but for me, like 2 years is like a couple of months.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
And so it feels pretty funky that we're already to this. It'll be interesting to see if our opinions have changed at all. We were pretty, especially compared to other MCU movies that had come out recently, we were relatively high on this one. And I know a lot of people do not like this movie and think it's dreadful and one of the worst movies of Phase 4 and 5, which I didn't have at all and was like overall pretty happy with it. I had certainly problems. I thought story-wise it got kind of sloppy, and that didn't get any better on another viewing. So we'll talk about that. But I'm curious to see if you're still in the same place with it, or if you've kind of turned on it, or we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Any other preamble you want to do before we get into the movie?
Nope, I'm good to go.
Austin's like, let's just get it over with already.
Yeah, I'm ready to be done now.
Get your movie to timestamp 0, however you want to watch it, Blu-ray or Disney Plus. I'm going to watch it Disney Plus, and timestamp 0. Away we go. Here we go. We're just going to jump right in. All right, here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. So, Austin, I'm just going to ask you outright, going back to this of being the Doctor Strange fan that you are, and I think you've probably even read quite a bit more Doctor Strange since you first saw this, right?
Yes. I'm trying to remember how it happened. I either start reading Doctor Strange like right before this movie comes out or right after, and I can't remember which.
Oh, okay. So you weren't even really a big comic fan yet of that character.
No, he was one of those characters that I was like, oh, I want to get into. Like, he seems like somebody I would like, but
okay. So
hadn't gotten to it yet.
Do you then at all have the Eternals thing, where now that you've looked a lot more at source material, it really wrecks this?
No, I would say I have more of like an Iron Man Guardians thing where it's definitely doing its own thing,
Yeah.
but like I respect it just as a take.
Okay. Cool. So you don't have that thing where it needs to be like a lot more like weird and out there like some Doctor Strange fans have.
No, because I think this one goes a lot weirder than the last one. I have that a little bit in the first one, but
Yeah.
I also think the first one's a pretty good adaptation of early Ditko.
Do you have that thing where it's frustrating that we're not like speaking spells out loud much?
I mean, like a little bit, but also at the same time, like it's not like like a completely universe breaking thing where I'm like, oh my god, it's ruined now.
Look, I'm trying to find your internal fanboy on this, okay?
No, I don't know. It's like Iron Man, right? Like I can appreciate what they did with Iron Man. It's not really what I want as an Iron Man fan of the comics, at least as it moves forward. Like it starts from a really good place.
Well, and what's
Uh,
interesting is some of the changes that end up being made to Doctor Strange's character is so that he's not as comparable to Iron Man.
yeah, well, I had this movie kind of reminds me of Iron Man 3. Um,
Oh,
but
that's interesting.
there's also a lot of comic booky Doctor Strange stuff that this is going to as well, where it's like, oh, I'm guessing this is probably where they're taking this from.
Yeah, well, and it goes to a lot more like comic book artifacts and spells and things.
Hmm. No,
And a lot of it goes over my head, but I can tell it's real comic book stuff.
I was also kind of thinking about the Suicide Squad to a lesser degree, in that it feels like it completely retcons the first movie into being like, well, I like the comics more, so I want to be more like that.
Yeah, that's true, but it's kind of finding a middle ground with that and having its cake some. Where
That's why I said like, but not to the same
yeah,
degree.
not to the same degree because that is a
Because that
clear,
is just straight up.
honest to god soft reboot, and this is from the start with like some of the same cast, but it's like
Yeah.
it could kind of be in continuity. But
Well,
this is
more like
even like
retcon-y.
this is building on some ideas from that first movie, and then mythology wise, really uh, making a turn where I don't even know what the Eye of Agamotto is anymore, and Raimi doesn't care, so I don't know if I do.
Yeah, no, he just goes, it's the comic book guy of Agamotto now. But him and Mordo just have the comic book relationship.
So right away, I gotta say, this movie I really needed, and it goes without saying, maybe another couple passes at script and another year before it went into production. I think because it was weirdly made, and not intentionally. In almost an Iron Man way, where there's like not that the actors on set are doing a lot of improvisation, but it's a lot of like making up the story on the fly. For lots of reasons, they lost their original director real late because of creative differences, mostly to do with adding Wanda to the story, which is interesting because she wasn't even really originally supposed to be the main villain. She was going to go dark at the end.
No, she was just going to be like a companion through the movie, and then by the end, she would be corrupted and become the villain. Because this starts as a nightmare movie, and you can tell. I mean, we're introduced to Doctor Strange waking up from a nightmare.
Yeah.
And throughout the entire movie, they will be talking about dreams and how like different realities go through dreams, and we keep using the word nightmare specifically.
And I never realized that, but now that you've had me read some Doctor Strange comics with Nightmare, and I really liked that character, I'm a little frustrated they didn't do that, because now what would be the point? Like, you've kind of made the movie that would make the most sense to bring him in. Like, wouldn't it be weird if now that we know, and I don't like this whole thing, but now that we know that all dreams are a window into other dimensions, you bring Nightmare in later. We've had that reveal already. Like, that'd be a mistake. I don't even know if I would want him at this point.
No, it is really weird.
It's really weird. We can talk about that whole thing in a bit. We talked over the opening scene, which is a fun kind of in Matus Rest way to open your movie. Kind of kind of grabs you right away and shocks you a bit. And you're like, what is this Doctor Strange with the ponytail and all of that? Right away,
some like really cool Doctor Strange visuals with like the landscape and like the floating pieces of debris and stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, it's not the worst green screen I've seen in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Like, some of it's not great, but it's, it's more than passable. Yeah. I could see a person, though, complaining, because I've heard a lot of complaints about CG with this movie, that it's just, too much of a CG fest. And I can kind of see that complaint given, and I mean, it's a really, really special effects heavy movie, even for these. But considering how much money it costs to make, this is one of the most expensive movies ever made. Like, not just Marvel, but ever. And some of that is probably because of the money they sunk into it before Raimi came onto the project, I would imagine. But when you look at the dollar sign attached to this, regardless of all of that context, you kind of want everything to work on screen. It's you kind of want to see all of that utilized properly. And I think it looks better than a lot of MCU movies. But when I see that price tag, I kind of want some of it to look even a little bit better than it does. I can see why people complain about that.
Yeah, there's definitely effects from like, oh, this did not have enough time to render properly. It's part of that like Marvel machine, man. They're like, no, we got to shove it out there. We're done. Call it. It's very unfortunate.
Well, and Marvel machine is exactly why this movie has some of the issues that it does. Right away, I'm going to complain that we have the makings of a pretty good character arc for Stephen Strange here, and I think like how he gets to where he comes to the end is a little bit easy and kind of slapped together, and it's gonna be hard not to use "slap together" that phrase a lot through this, where you open with this, I think, somewhat arbitrary thing of this. Now, I'll try not to get too into the weeds with this yet, but with this other Doctor Strange that is too morally ambiguous to the point where he sacrifices, or he tries to sacrifice, America Chavez's life because the multiverse hangs in the balance and the ends justifies the means. And my response to that is, you could present that really easily in such a way where the audience would more than forgive him for that, and it wouldn't seem like this huge morally bereft thing to do. Like, all you have to do is have him politely ask her to do that, and then she gives the big self-sacrifice, and then all of a sudden it's not ends justifies the means anymore. Like, it seems like a really kind of easy situation. I feel like on paper that whole arc of he's always, and I like the phrasing of this. Doctor Strange always has to be the man holding the knife. He's got to be in control. He doesn't think that the universe can live without him, and he was the same way, selfishly, arrogantly, in the way he practiced medicine, and then he's got to learn to let go even more than he did in the first movie in getting his powers and utilizing them. And so when you get to the end of the movie, the big thing he has to learn is that he's got to rely on other people, but also that there's always a better way, I guess. But then that just ends up being really easy because he happens to be in a situation at the end where there's a better way. But there wasn't at the beginning. What was that Doctor Strange supposed to do? Is my question. It's really all in just the way it's presented.
Encourage her to use her powers correctly. I guess is just.
I guess just yell at her face and say, "No, you can control it. I control my powers."
Control it, as he does at the end.
How do you feel about that whole thing? And then we can talk about the fun octopus monster.
Yeah, who is Shuma Gorath, but legally not Shuma Gorath.
But not Shuma Gorath. They talk about that in the director and writer commentary.
Yeah, I think the writer says something like, "Oh, like he is not this character, just so you know," and it's like
he says not to be confused with, and I'm like, no, you confused it because you had to.
Yeah. You went to Gargantos because you legally had to. He doesn't even look like Gargantos.
No.
um, but yeah, I don't know. I think his character arc's fine. It's like nothing amazing. I think the big thing with this movie is it's not an especially great script, but all the actors and Raimi are both elevating it as best they can.
No, that's exactly right.
Um, yeah, like I think his character arc is fine, and that it's building off of basically everything he's done so far in the MCU, not just this movie, where like it is going off of that Infinity War Endgame thing where like he will sacrifice things just to get the job done, and I don't know. I think that's cool that we're building off that.
And oh, dang it! I totally forgot to turn the clock on. Apologies, folks. We're just not gonna have a clock this time, I guess.
Way to go. Cap, look, Dr. Octopus is climbing up the building at Aunt May. Just like in that other movie we watched.
There's a lot of that in this movie. I found myself. By the way, everything with the monster looks really, really good.
Yeah, he looks really good. No, I've heard a lot of people complain that this movie is too much of a Raimi's greatest hits movie and not enough of just a movie directed by Raimi.
Yeah, do you feel that way at all with it? Because I honestly, personally, didn't have that too much. And maybe if I was a bigger Raimi guy, I would have. But like, I liked seeing his fingerprints on it, and I didn't feel like too much of it was, just his greatest hits and hallmarks. And then I felt justified in that when I listened to the writer-director commentary, and those guys were talking about how a lot of the very, very Raimi stuff ended up being writer ideas that Raimi himself had to warm up to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always what I heard too, was that it was Marvel being like, oh, like it would be fun to do this. Yeah, I've never really had that. Like, there's a lot of homages to things, but a lot of them are just kind of cutesy. Like right here when they rip out Gargantos' eye, it's the exact same sound effect as the Evil Dead 2 eye pop scene.
Guys,
But
my
it's also,
timestamp right now
completely
is
different.
1326. And again, apologies for not having the clock.
But I mean, you can just tell Raimi worked on this based on camera movement alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just that it gets silly. Like Raimi was never afraid to go silly, and this movie has that in spades. Like I remember there was talk that Feige wasn't happy about, or maybe not happy, wasn't sure about the like standoff shot thing with Doctor Strange and Mordo.
Yes.
But like, nah, that's like perfectly silly. Like, that seems great.
It just seems appropriate for this movie.
Exactly, yeah.
And it helps it to not get too bogged down. I mean, a lot of, with some of the like darker ideas, I feel like the silly stuff that bothers me is a lot more in the writing. It's not Raimi stuff.
The biggest issue with this movie is the script, 100%.
Yeah, there are places where, like, I feel like you have the kind of two protagonist problem, and I don't mean dual protagonist, Austin. I mean where your superhero is two different people in different scenes. This is a Doctor Strange that sometimes, especially in, again, the arc he goes through, which is an extension of his first movie arc, and again, I just have some issues with the execution of some of that, but just the structure of it, where it goes. He's very much the same character he was in the first movie, and he's still growing, and maybe it's a little bit of that continuing the origin problem, where like now he's really Doctor Strange at the end. I don't think it's as bad about that as some things are, but then there are places where he seems extremely dense and slow on the uptake and kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Like in this scene, I don't like the whole Doctor Strange doesn't know Spanish. Oh, he doesn't even really like speaking English thing. Like, where does that come from? Like, Doctor Strange is a brilliant
That's your MCU
surgeon.
Creaking him.
Yeah, I have a hard time buying that guy's not dual or maybe even triple lingual.
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe he's not, But his just not knowing Spanish is whatever. But Juan coming in and basically being like, I don't know, he doesn't even speak English that great. I'm like, what is that joke?
Yeah, I'm fine with him not speaking Spanish. You're right. That bit is just MCU humor that's creaking in. And I feel like this movie has places where I'm like, this is where the MCU humor comes in, and it's replaced with Raimi.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's fun. There's a big one near the end when Doctor Strange is fighting Scarlet Witch, and I forget what he says. He's got like a really big dramatic line, and it cuts to Rachel McAdams reacting to it, and I was like, in another MCU movie, she stops and goes, "Did you really just say that?" or something like that. But instead, it's like a Raimi joke where she's just like, and it's like a weird close up.
And then, unfortunately, there's places where it doesn't manage to get around it, like Doctor Strange's reaction to
the Illuminati.
Members of the Illuminati when he's got to go, that guy has a fork on his head. I don't need that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, the worst line in the entire movie is Illumawati.
Yes.
I can't even deal with it. You're telling me Doctor Strange, of all people, has never heard the word, in any context, Illuminati.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, yeah, he doesn't know what those people are. Yeah, he's never heard of a basic word that gets thrown around a lot for secret society? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
I can't deal with that, Austin.
But then, thank God they just all die immediately. We can get away from that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there. Because I don't hate it on the face of it, and I like some things that are done with that. I don't have the cameo parade problem that some people do with it. I'm like, if you're gonna do a multiversal story and you just got the rights to X-Men and Fantastic Four and stuff, I mean, you gotta play it. You gotta play it right, and I guess we can argue about whether they did that. But like, yeah, pull the curtain back. Like show us some other characters from other things. When you go to different places in the multiverse, we need to have a little bit of fun with that, certainly.
No, I think actually really like how that's handled, because it goes, here's those cameos, and now they're just all gonna die in like really gruesome ways, and I'm like, thank you. Like, they didn't take over the movie. We're moving on.
Oh, I see
now.
what you mean. I thought you meant like you were nauseated that it was even there.
No, I'm like, thank God. I remember when we did the spoiler cast, Connor said it feels like Raimi being like, oh, I have to put these in? Okay, well, now I'm going to be like, screw you. And obviously I won't go that far because I don't think that's what that is. But, like, it feels like that in a way where it's like a...
Now, I do feel like the Illuminati specifically is a somewhat, like, random choice.
You think so?
I mean, a little. Like in the comics, I get that Doctor Strange is a part of them, but the main reason they exist is to split up the Infinity Stones, and it's just kind of or gems in the comics. It's kind of weird that never comes up. It's like I don't know why they were just put together because they killed Doctor Strange.
Well, no, they're just like a group of heroes that are like controlling things, I guess. That was just always how I took it.
Yeah, I just wonder what brought them together in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess to me,
Thanos,
just having read about them in the comics some, it's a little weird if that's the only way we ever used them.
Yeah.
But also, in our universe, we destroyed all the stones. Mm-hmm. So we wouldn't do that with them now anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to be fanboyish about it. I mean, you can bring them in for some other reason. It just struck me as a little random, a little arbitrary.
Yeah, I've never had that. I don't know. I think it's fine. I also don't need any more of them. I think they're used like the exact amount of time they should be.
Well, and you know, I've heard a lot of complaints that like certain characters were just used there for like pointless fan service. And yes, I can see that argument with some of it. Specifically, why is Professor X the 90s version, the cartoon version? Except besides just like somebody wanted to do that feels like a fan film sort of choice. But It's Professor X because he's a member of the Illuminati, as is Black Bolt. But some of them are not. like the
It's a mix of
Agent
comic
Carter
book
Captain America is not.
Illuminati and just whoever was around.
Oh, so you're saying it's the TOS actors at the beginning of Generations?
Yeah, it's just Captain Carter and Captain Marvel were just the two people lame enough to show
Were
up.
lame enough to show up, yeah. The thing that in the theater I most shocked and impressed me is that they went all the way and they let Wanda be their main villain. And that made me very happy. And we will break down, of course, her motivations and whether we really buy what she's doing. We'll talk about all that because I know that that's a big deal breaker for a lot of people. Is the argument of why in the world can't she just make her own children again? Why does it have to be the one specific universe that she keeps dreamwalking into when she tells us that those children exist in every other universe? What is she gonna do when they grow up? I mean, like, I do have a lot of questions about it, but you can chalk most of it up to, of course, she's real far gone and she's lost her mind. And
she's corrupted by the Darkhold,
and also that, yeah. And there is a big question I have with that whole thing, Austin, is that too much of a cop out? That it's very ambiguous as to just how much of what she does is just the Darkhold's hold on her.
I mean, I think it's just a holdover from when Nightmare was the villain of this movie, where he's just replaced by a book.
Sure.
Like, there was probably more stuff about him maybe like coming to her in her dreams and she didn't know it.
Well, let me ask you this.
Like that.
Do you feel like it would have thrown her under the bus too much if she went this crazy without it?
I mean, people probably would have complained even more than they did.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think with a smarter script, you maybe could have done that. Now, would we buy it after everything that happens with WandaVision? Because I feel like the argument for why she wouldn't just recreate her children again is when she did that the first time, the whole Westview thing happened, and maybe she's worried that she wouldn't be able to do that without putting other people at risk or whatever. And obviously she kills people in this. She puts lots of people at risk. But I guess my point is, if she does that whole situation again, she maybe just assumes it'll work out the same way it did last time. So like, she can't do that this time.
Blew up in her own face. Yeah. So I don't think she can do that. That, and like, she's limited to just a section of an area. Like, she can't really live.
Well, and like with a lot of things in this movie, we just don't go far enough in discussing some of the ideas. So all we had to do was spend, and like, it's 2 hours. I appreciate that it's not super bloated, but there are definitely places where I need discussions to go on a little bit longer, and I need certain motivations to be made a little bit more explicit. I would have appreciated, and it could have been here, and it didn't have to be very long. I would have appreciated a justification on her part, where or an explanation, I guess, on her part, because I would assume, Austin, and I don't know if I have enough to assume this, but that this is what it is. I love these crazy Raimi transitions. I love that he's still doing this stuff 20 years after Spider-Man.
I also like just how they visually portray her being corrupted, where like her fingertips are rotting.
Yeah.
Like, all that stuff's really cool.
Everything with her makeup, and this is not a thing I ever talk about, is awesome. They do all these shots, these like close-ups on her eyes closed with that purple eyeshadow, and I don't know what it is. That is an image that sticks with me.
Yeah. No, the big thing with Wanda is that Elizabeth Olsen's great in this movie.
She's so good.
And Raimi gets to go full horror with it, and I think his horror sensibilities fit Doctor Strange more than they do Spider-Man when they would come in.
Yeah, that's true of America Chavez, and also it seems a little convenient that's how that worked out. But you know, whatever. When Doctor Strange, now I mean, it makes sense that he would go to Wanda, but it is a little convenient, maybe a little easy that like he winds up going to the person that's actually behind all of it. But it's nice that it's not that the reveal is there. I love that as a first act plot point.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you really
same
did
here.
in the theater. That blindsided me. That was a big deal. I thought that was so exciting because it looked like in uh, the previews made it look like this too. Even though some of her argument against Strange is even in there, that it was just going to be another one of these team up movies.
Yeah. There was my boy Rentra.
Who's that
He's
now?
here. The big green is Oxnard Bowl man.
Oh yeah.
All of his scenes were cut. He was supposed to be like have like a little side adventure, but
What I say? Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
I
The
mean, the
woman.
movie is not really lacking him, but like I think it's just fun that he's there. Like we keep cutting to a weird green bull man.
Yeah, there's a woman here that dies later trying to save Wong,
Wong's
who
love interest.
is
Yeah,
supposed to be his love interest, and
that is not
very
communicated well
very
enough.
little of it is left in the movie. So there's a bit where like she touches his face, and that's supposed to be enough to tell us that. But they were supposed to actually have a couple of scenes that would make it really clear that
Mhm.
he's got this whole side love plot.
Yeah, yeah, and if I remember right with Rintra, I think he was supposed to lead like a group of students to try to save Wong at the end in the
Oh, okay.
Wendigore. So it's not really lacking that, but
I
I'm
don't
glad
know
he's
if
at least here.
I don't know if you'll remember this, but that is exactly the same thing as Scotty's nephew in Wrath of Khan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, who in the most cuts you'll see now, everything with him is left in, and you know that he's Scotty's nephew. So when he dies and Scotty shows up holding his body, it's real sad and tragic. But in the theatrical version, we don't know that he's Scotty's nephew, so he just shows up holding the body of some random kid, and it's supposed to be really sad. So it's a little like that.
Mhm. I mean, I just like that he still made it into this movie so that people in the audience could be like, "What? Why is there a big animal man here?" Just never touched on. It's
But
never
I just meant with Wong's love interest.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I'm so locked into
No, I understand.
Multiverse.
But I'm just saying it's like Scotty's nephew, where it's like I don't know why it's supposed to be significant that she died, but okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
I love the kind of verbal tete-a-tete between Strange and Wanda, and the verbiage there where she keeps saying this is me being reasonable, and that's a place where I actually think there's pretty like a pretty understandable explanation as to why she doesn't go a lot farther. Where that means that the Darkhold has taken over her, but there still is some Wanda there.
Hmm. She's not completely gone.
She's holding herself back, and that makes the stakes feel higher, and that makes her feel more dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also the reason that I'm a little bit conflicted on how quickly and easily the Illuminati go out, because on the one hand, it feels like you have major characters that are expendable because we're in somebody else's universe, but also she is that powerful, and she needs to display that in some way.
And the
So,
entire point of them is just they're too cocky. They're too arrogant.
and they're maybe no better than the way they perceive Doctor Strange, because they
Yeah.
also had the same ends justifies the means thing in the way they took him out.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, we think Doctor Strange is evil, so therefore we should kill him.
I I'll finish the point I started to make a little bit earlier, real quick, in case I forget to finish it. Have we gotten Fortify Your Mind yet?
No, it's about to come.
We're about to see my favorite moment
Fortify your
in the
mind.
whole movie. It's so good. That's the moment in the theater that made me go, "Oh, Wong needs his own movie. Give
It's
him
so
a
funny.
film." I love how far Raimi lets him go, man.
Yeah,
It's
no,
great.
It's so silly and awesome.
But like, I'm not even making fun of it. I think it's great.
No, I mean same here. Like I just mean like that is silly. Like the way he says it is silly. It's awesome.
Did you see discount Christian Bale in there?
I did, yes. That's always what I think of too. He's like,
Do you have that too?
well, I always thought
He
he was
looks like
like
Christian
he's a
Bale.
mix of Christian Bale and Polka Dot Man.
It's a weird mix. Okay, nobody should have ever let this guy be a sorcerer. You can tell he's just stoned out of his mind all the time.
Yeah, no, a woman like sultrily whispered into his ear and it made him run away.
Yeah. Like, he was never Carmartage material. Let's call
Yeah.
a spade here. Real quick, the point I started to make about 900 years ago is the assumption I want to make, and I'm not sure if I've got enough information to do this, Austin, is that the reason Wanda, the other major reason that Wanda wouldn't just recreate her children again is that it doesn't, it couldn't feel real to her now that she knows that they are real in other universes. And that should have been a discussion. I don't know why that's not there, especially because there's a line that almost contradicts it when Strange is like, "Well, they weren't real. You created it with magic," and then. And I find this line slightly cringy, just the way it's written, where she's like, "That's what every mother does," and I'm like, "Stop it!" Like what she should have said is, what she says later in a scene we haven't even gotten to yet, where she says, "I've been dreaming about my children every night, and I know they exist in every other universe." Now she's been having, as far as we can tell, the same dream from the same universe, so I don't know how she knows they're in every other universe.
Oh, no, I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with what?
There's never a point where it says she's only seen into one.
Well, she only goes to the one.
Yeah, but she only goes there to get to Doctor Strange, because that's where they went.
Oh, is that what it is? I thought that was just kind of... I thought that was the universe she chose because that was the one she saw in a dream.
No, she possesses that Wanda because she's trying to get to America Chavez still.
Okay, but regardless, I still don't know how she would know that there's not a universe that doesn't have them except for hers.
Because she... when she says that, she like opens up the dark world, and it like opens up a bunch of different universes showing her kids. Like, she's like, I've looked into many universes.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so she is able to just peer right into them.
Yeah, that's like one of the things she can do with the dark world.
Okay, well, that's just me missing plot stuff then.
That's okay.
Apologies.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, it's easy to think that when there's really one universe we're kind of going to. And then America Chavez goes to that, like, picks that one because they were just there. Like, it's already on the mind.
Well, and I also just feel like some of the mythology choices and like in rules and how stuff work is real contrived in I keep saying easy, but real easy. And so I just thought that was kind of another one of those.
Mm-hmm. No, she is seeing into other universes.
You know, our universe is always played as real special in the multiverse. I guess it's because it's the sacred one, Austin. And so ours is, as far as we can tell, and this is not explicitly stated, but they kind of play it like ours is the only Doctor Strange that will ultimately turn out more altruistic than the others in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that America Chavez just happened to luckily pick the right one. Which is, I mean, his kind of nice and heartfelt. It's real Disney-fied.
His character arc is very, like, multiversal, where his character arc is changing from all of the other versions of him.
What I wonder is if any other Doctor Strange went through exactly what he went with here, if a lot of them wouldn't also wind up where he does at the end of this. Mm-hmm. Or if it's just because it's this one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's possible.
So we haven't talked much at all about America Chavez, and I just absolutely adore her and this actress in this movie. And that's a character that I've never really cared for the few times I've seen her in
this
comics.
Is an effect that doesn't look great.
Oh, yeah, that is kind of rough.
It is a really cool idea. It's just not polished.
That wants to be an animation so bad. But I was just going to say, the one really, really dumb thing she does is when, and I complained about this back in the spoiler cast, but it's when Doctor Strange goes, they're in the reflections, or she's in the reflections, and then immediately America just looks down into a puddle. And I'm like, why would you do that?
But it's so cool.
He just told you not to do that. Stop it.
So cool, Cab.
Something
he needed to have a Raimi moment.
Something I didn't know before listening to that commentary, because there is some pretty cool attention to detail in this movie, even as sloppy as some of it is. Like, one of the things I admire about this movie is that it holds up as well as it does, as thrown together as it is. Like, this is one of the best first drafts I've ever seen put to movie. Because it absolutely is. Like, they were writing so much on the fly. They changed and added major plot points during the production. I couldn't believe when I found out through the director and writer commentary that they didn't even have Sinister Strange when they started production. It's like halfway through the movie before they even decided to do that.
Yeah, no, I remember when this came out, there was talk that was reshoots. I was like, wow.
It's crazy.
It's one of the best scenes in the movie.
His character arc must have looked way different at one point, because originally the Doctor Strange we get at the very beginning was supposed to be a good Doctor Strange. And this is interesting. I don't know how far you got into that commentary, Austin, but they also talk about how the Doctor Strange in 838 was supposed to be it was supposed to have actually saved that universe.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a better Doctor Strange.
And so they made that statue, and then they had to come up with a reason that it's there afterwards, which is a really good explanation, by the way. Mm-hmm. The idea, because that's what something like the Illuminati would do, right? Is they're manipulating facts in order to control the populace, and so they tell everyone that he was in fact the hero to not ruin their heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And I love that it goes as far as to having the stars.
And there's the Living Tribunal.
Yeah,
the stars are really cool. And it gets so silly, like earlier when they're fighting Gargantos, when she kicks the stone, it breaks off into a star.
I didn't even notice that, really?
Yeah.
And she's just wearing her ultra-patriotic star outfit for no real reason except her name is America.
Mm-hmm.
I love all that. But you shouldn't, in the same movie, have Doctor Strange making fun of Black Bolt for having a fork on his head. It's inconsistent. You're straight up doing comic book stuff with no explanation, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people complaining about stuff like that. That montage of going through the universes is really, really neat, and I kind of wish we had a little bit more stuff like that in the movie.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that bit in the first movie where it's like, look at all these amazing places, and then we don't go to any of them.
At least they go to more than one universe, but it's like two.
Yeah.
You know.
And a lot of people complain about that.
Not a ton.
I don't really care. I don't have the, like, this movie should be jumping universe to universe constantly. Like, I think it's fine. The way this movie plays reminds me a lot of the back half of Ditko's run, which we haven't gotten to yet. But when Doctor Strange is on the run the whole time. And I like some of that stuff. I think that's cool. It doesn't go to exactly that place as that does, but I like that there's at least some of it.
Yeah, I'm interested to read that stuff now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my favorite part of his run, so I'm excited to get there.
I'll tell you another reason that I'm more and more okay with, regardless of how I feel about just Patrick Stewart's performance in this. He's trying. He doesn't really know what he's in. But at first I was like, Professor X is just here because it's Illuminati. And, like, that's pretty much true. But I do like, and we'll get to Super Chats here in a minute, guys. I do like that there is some X-Men in this, Austin, because with America's part, it's her whole part of it is kind of an X-Men story.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it like that, but you're right.
And I like how she's simultaneously like a new X-Man figuring out her powers in a world that doesn't even have mutants as far as we know yet. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of establishing that mutant idea without even really having a mutant yet. Like, that's kind of neat, I think. But also, simultaneously, it's a good parallel to what Doctor Strange is going through and what Wanda's going through, where you have a pretty good triad there thematically with characters suffering familial loss and trying to navigate their way through grief and figuring out how much of the world they can control. And each of them is on a different place in the spectrum with that. And I think on first viewing, I didn't really appreciate how interconnected those ideas were. And I don't know if it's brought far enough to the fore, because once again, it kind of feels like a first draft brought to screen. But that is all there.
Yeah, I mean that is. Yeah, I don't know if it's not like enough in the front. Like that is what the movie's doing, but I don't know. I think that's fine. One of the things, though, Cap, that is consistent across the multiverse is that Sam Raimi will always beat up Bruce Campbell.
That is true.
It's a universal fact.
I do think Doctor Strange is overly cruel here, whereas it's supposed to be funny that he's doing this for 3 whole weeks, and if you watch the deleted scenes, you see this go on longer, where he burns his face on a grill. That's the very next thing that happens, and I'm like, well, 3 weeks of that, and he's dead! Like...
No, I was laughing about it this time. I'm like, oh man, 3 weeks, like he's just doing this through the night, too?
He's not gonna make it the next 10 minutes! And that extended scene is great, too, because there's a place where he goes, oh, it's done! And he just, like, hits himself with a pan or something.
Oh, like there's like an extended version of the after credits scene?
No, there's an extended version of that scene, and then there's also an extended version of the after credits scene.
Oh, okay.
Because the extended version of the after credits scene has him look almost right into camera and go, I'm not done with you yet, Doctor Strange.
Oh my god, they should have kept that. Okay, I'm conflicted because the way it does end is perfect, but that's amazing.
But that's pretty good. Okay, can I complain about this universe?
Yes, that's fine.
I have thank you for your permission, Austin.
You're welcome.
I have okay, well, real quick, I'll just say I do appreciate the watch motif from the first movie is carried through here, and I think it actually makes that whole symbol in the first movie a little bit richer.
Well, that's another place where it's Iron Man 3, because he's going to end up fixing it at the end.
Say it again.
So that's another place where it's Iron Man 3. He's going to end up fixing it by the end.
Well, doesn't it feel like... Obviously, there's lots of movies this reminds me of, and there's a lot more Spider-Man 2 in this that we can talk about. When you get to the end, Wanda is kind of just Doc Ock again. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, that's not a thing I had thought about until this viewing. But it's also, in its way, Days of Future Past, because it feels like it skipped a movie, and it feels like it skipped a movie to do a much bigger kind of fan servicey movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a Mordo movie somewhere between those. Oh, that's fair.
It doesn't feel as much like that, because at least in between you got to see Doctor Strange do some other stuff in other movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just apparently between this, it's the comic book thing where Mordo's just attacking him on a weekly basis.
Well, the other way it's like Iron Man 3 is that it's building directly off of choices he made in an Avengers movie. And Iron Man 3 does exactly that.
Yeah, that's one of them too. Another thing that makes me think of Iron Man 3 is that it's very much like a character through a lens of a director who has a very specific style, and that's a lot of what works about it. And it's like a little sloppy in places where there's things that I would change and I think could be better, but overall I think the cast and director bring it forward as being a really good movie.
Yeah, I don't know why. I thought there was a chance that on another viewing you would have turned on this a little bit.
No, and I think watching like 12 superhero movies in the last week helped it, where I'm like, oh yeah, like, style. The thing that MCU fans are apparently allergic to, because every time a director has style, they boo it.
You think people want these all to have a house style and look exactly the same?
I mean, I'm straw-manning people, but I think there's at least a little bit of that with this movie, where people are like, this movie's the worst thing ever, and I'm like, come on now.
Yeah, with respect to people, I mean, if it just didn't speak to you, it didn't speak to you. But I don't understand that. This was the most watchable movie of its phase to
I
me.
I would take a million movies that are like this, that are sloppy but have some sort of artistic vision
Yeah.
and are fun, than 8 million Ant-Man movies. Actually, sorry, I said that dumbly. Then one Ant-Man movie. Sorry.
Then one Ant-Man movie. I would take 100 of these over 100 Ant-Mans. Well,
Yeah,
sure.
I realized I think because I took too long on that beginning part, I lost track of where my joke was going.
So yeah, I'm with you. I like the close-ups on the eyes.
Oh, it's great.
It's just not taking itself too seriously. I mean, I really appreciate that, but not in the like self-parody way that some more recent Marvel movies have been.
No, it's so ridiculously awesome. I mean, Raimi, I think, has always been very open about how he makes movies, which is that he's not making high art, he's making fun movies, and
Yeah.
sometimes that becomes high art. But he knows what he's making, and he does it really well.
Well, and you can tell that he's a little bit at odds with his writers with this movie.
Yeah, and like I don't know. I think a lot of people went, "Oh, it's going to be like his Spider-Man movies," and are too nostalgically blind about those movies, so that when they come into this and it has some of those same issues, it looks worse, because I don't think a lot of people look back at those movies
Are
and
critical
go,
of what those were. Yeah, and it is a lot like those in certain ways, right?
I mean, we talked about that a lot with Spider-Man 2, is that there's a lot of issues we have with the writing of that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's maybe at odds with his writers a little bit there too. Like, Raimi's not a writer. I do kind of wonder what a Raimi screenplay would look like.
Well, he's co-written things before.
Has he?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, you know his career more than I do, so I thought he was strictly a director.
No, I mean, unless I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's co-written things. Like, I think he co-writes the Evil Dead movies, and
Sure.
maybe Spider-Man 3. I can't remember.
So real quick, I want to throw a couple of complaints about the way this universe is handled, because it's very weird and it makes me laugh. One of them is, and I complained about this when we did the spoiler cast. I don't know why anybody would walk up to a machine in public that would bring up any potential memory you've ever had, and you don't know what it's going to show you, and it shows it to just passerby. Like, I don't know how that company makes any money at all.
Well, it's like, here's like a little tease. Now you got to go in to get your the rest of your memory. A lot of people complain about that scene. It's definitely very easy.
Well, I think it's actually a really cool way to do a flashback in scene, like without doing a flashback, but have it be a place you have to go inside in a stall or something.
Well,
Don't have it on the sidewalk.
That's the thing, is I think that scene's good. It's just the way we jump into it is awkward, where they can't think of a way for us to get in there, so it's just you step on it and boom.
But it gives me something really funny to complain about, because
Yeah,
that's really funny. Like, imagine people are walking by and the memory it picks is the first time you had sex. Like, what are you doing?
This is the best shot scene, by the way.
You think so?
Yeah, where Doctor Strange is like, and he's like squeezing in and out.
Well, that's very old school Raimi.
The only thing this movie's missing
really
is just a cut to Elizabeth Olsen going, for no reason.
Well, I wanted to see, wanted to look back in that puddle and be like, avenge me!
And then we get the circle fade out.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so funny.
I love that stuff.
Well, Wanda straight up breaks the fourth wall here when she possesses herself.
And I don't totally know what to make of it, but I like it. Like, when she looks right at into the camera, it's eerie.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. It's creepy. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just,
well, and you know me, I'm trying to read it. initially. And I'm with you. I don't think it ultimately actually means anything, but the best thing I can come up with is she is so powerful to the point she's almost seeing, like, directly into the other universes.
Well, I mean, that is what she's doing. So, like,
and so she's looking into ours for a second. I mean, that's the only thing I've got.
But so much of the imagery in this sequence is really cool, like the ocean and the cup. But like that picture of her that like turns.
Yeah, it's great.
It's like right out of The Ring.
No, and I love how
I'm just missing, Cap, in blockbusters right now is this like Raimi, Gore Verbinski, Peter Jackson, like just weird creepiness. We're not afraid for your kids to be scared in the moment.
Yeah, and that's just missing and has been for a long time in blockbusters and the stuff that's supposed to be ostensibly for the family. But I think, to that point, I think this movie strikes a really good balance in never taking that so far that it feels like it's going to lose too many people. Like this is the scene where it's horror now. Like it never really feels like that. Like it'll go to those places, but it all still feels like it's a Marvel movie you can take your kids to. And like I don't know how exactly he achieves that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
it never pushes the envelope to the point where I wouldn't let one of my kids watch it.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Who were all, by the way, riveted by this the other day when I was watching it.
Oh, nice.
In preparation for this.
Places it pushes past weird for regular people. Like I think for a lot of, I remember in the theater, people kind of didn't know how to react to zombie Doctor Strange giving a speech with like half of his face melted off, which is so dark, man.
Maybe I'm just really desensitized at this point, but I was surprised it went there. But I also thought that there was kind of a class to that, and like to the way the eyeball and the monster pops out, that like it's just shy of going too far.
Mm-hmm.
No, and it was shy of going too far to get the PG-13 too, which was part of what they were making sure would happen. They didn't want to get the R.
I mean, I think the thing that pushes it the most is the Black Bolt death. I'm still shocked they got away with that.
You know what? I'm with you on that.
And I don't think it goes too far. I'm just like amazed that they were allowed to do that. Like it's not gory, but it's messed up.
I do think it's weird that if a bad guy kidnaps you in this universe,
they tie you up like that.
They always tie you up like that, yeah.
Although, to be fair, she was controlling that ribbon monster, so that was also her.
Well, I know,
maybe Wanda just likes to do that.
Well, I know, but like Thanos also does it.
Well, he does it where they're like laying like that.
Yeah, that's true, but it's still sort of midair and your arms are up. Like, it's really similar.
Wanda does it where you're standing up. Thanos is like
Why does everybody do that?
That's just the proper way to restrain people. That's how they do it in the CIA, you know.
And yeah, her death is pretty disturbing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've never noticed there's like a tear going down.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I also really like the editing here where we're flashing back between universes.
What I was going to say, I think that's actually maybe my favorite shot in the movie.
Oh, yeah, I was joking about that part earlier.
Is the way it flips back and forth. I can never tell when you're joking, Austin, but I'll just say, well, you can tell us what yours is at any point. That might be mine. I love that.
I genuinely don't even know where to start to pick a favorite shot of this movie, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's too many good ones.
Real quick, the other thing I wanted to complain about with that universe is Chavez's line about how in most universes food is free.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a silly, quirky idea that if you think about it for 5 seconds, it completely falls apart. Like,
it's just set up for the Pizza Papa joke.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But you know me, I think about things a little bit, especially when I'm preparing for a rewind. And if I was writing a rewind on this, you'd have 5 minutes about that.
Mm-hmm. There's Rintra. He's back. He's being tortured. I don't like that.
Food is one of the biggest, most profitable industries in any culture.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what your economy looks like if no one charges for food. And like maybe there are some universes that do that, but but most of them, I mean, like wars are fought over food. Like what are we saying? Like our universe is backwards and most of them are more enlightened. Like
Yes.
that seems unlikely.
I mean, if the shoe fits.
Austin, I'm doing you a favor. If you weren't here, I would go 5 minutes on that.
Good to know. I don't know.
I think it's a funny thing to complain about.
Yeah, fair enough. It's very silly. I don't know.
It's really surprising that you have to pay for food in this universe. Oh, really? Because
I go 5 minutes on it if we don't have to go 5 minutes on the 616 thing.
Because things are finite, and that's the reason Thanos got rid of half the universe.
Well, in those universes, he didn't. He was like, "Life is good. I'm eating food."
But yeah, I mean, I will mention the 616 thing real quick, just because I know that's the thing that people like to talk about. I'm fine with it if only it had never shown up in Far From Home. Like I don't like the sloppy world building thing, and I would be inconsistent if I didn't complain about that, Austin, because phase 1 and 2 were like chock full of things like that, where they just weren't keeping stuff straight. And that is a minor, more microcosmic thing of issue of a larger problem. This has the same thing that we had when we got to Thor, where we couldn't decide what the difference was between realms and planets, where we had dimensions that you crossed between in the first Doctor Strange, and then in this, we're apparently making a distinction now between those dimensions and multiversal dimensions, but we never come out and say that, so it's really awkward. Because now you have to dreamwalk to go to different dimensions, but Doctor Strange goes to different dimensions.
To different universes, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess like in other universes, you would have things like the dark dimension and stuff like that.
The problem is terminology. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but don't we still refer to other universes in the multiverse sometimes as dimensions?
No, I don't think we ever do that. We do the opposite, where...
Well, I might be wrong about this then, because I thought we did. And like, if we do, it's very confusing.
The Ancient One, when talking about other dimensions in the first movie, talks about the multiverse. It's like, that's the closest to what you're talking about, but I don't think we ever say like, oh, we're in a new dimension. It's a new universe.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I do think they are consistent about that.
But the main reason I wish they'd never touched the 616 thing, Austin, is just because I knew fans would complain about it, and I didn't want to listen to that. So, like, I got annoyed about it for the same reason for sort of the same reason you are, except I just didn't want to listen to people talk about it.
Yeah.
That was my whole thing. Because you had, I don't know if you remember this, but before that ever came up, the fan community had kind of banded together and decided what the number for the MCU was.
Yeah, and they're ridiculous if they think that they were actually going to use that.
Oh no, and I knew they would never actually use that. But that made me go, oh god, they've decided this is 616, and they just broke a bunch of people's brains.
Yep.
No, the bigger issue for me, and this isn't about this movie. This is more Loki and then Deadpool and Wolverine. But the bigger issue for me with the way they've been talking about our dimension or universe as opposed to others in the multiverse is just I don't like the sacred timeline thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that's just their way of being like, this one's the important one. That's why we're watching it.
Yeah.
That's why I just don't like multiverse. Like, these are questions I don't care about.
No, and I understand that.
So it's like, I don't know. It's fine.
But we got to agree to disagree on that, because I like multiverse stuff, and I really, really wish they would have handled it right, because I lost interest in it immediately.
No, I
because
mean, I don't like what they've done with the multiverse.
they're just not consistent and creative enough about it. And I got real burnout on it in comics for lots of the same reasons. And I also don't like that Marvel did it in movies before DC did.
Yeah. If it were up to me, there would be no multiverse.
It irritated me that, yeah, and again, I just don't have that because I think it can be a really fascinating concept, and I'm a big, kind of broad sci-fi guy. And like Morrison with Multiversity does super fascinating, creative, like kind of fourth wall breaking things with it. Like there's so much you can do with that. Marvel, if they were gonna do it, needed to wait longer because it's too big for your second saga. Or what you do is you don't make it a saga, you just make it a concept that you occasionally touch. Like there's no reason it has to be all end all. And
no, I agree with that.
And when you do multiversal stories, they shouldn't all be, oh no, the whole multiverse is at stake, because that whole thing is just too big to get your mind around.
And I'm glad we don't do that here.
We did it in Spider-Man.
I know, and that movie sucks.
Yeah. Well, and I also don't like that movie got. It was a mistake, and we talked about this in other streams, but it was a mistake for that movie to get ahead of the multiverse thing before this movie does it, because it makes it feel kind of tired and less special with this. Like if this wouldn't have been the introduction to the idea, but it would have been for audiences that especially weren't watching Disney Plus shows. It would have been the first like big time we do anything with it, where it's like, okay, we've been seeding this, we've been talking about the fact that there are other dimensions, and then now we do a full-blown story about it. And you already did it with Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange was in it, and grossly out of character. I sort of wonder what people that didn't like this movie, what their response would have been to it without No Way Home.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder if that affected it for people, either direction.
Yeah, I mean, people have been complaining about the title in the chat, how it's Multiverse of Madness, but we're not like jumping universes, and like it's not a lot of madness in the multiverse. For me, like the movie's better off for that, and like the title is just a Lovecraft reference. I think that's fine. It's telling you this is going to be a horror Doctor Strange thing. I don't know. I don't have those same issues with the title in that way. Here's one of the worst.
Yeah, I don't need to be wishy-washy. I totally see both sides to that.
Well, a lot of it's just, I think when people complain about that stuff, and like a lot of people do complain that there isn't enough of like what we're doing here, and my reaction to that is always just, yeah, the movie's better for it. Like we're not bogged down by all of that.
Yeah, but in their defense, also, Austin, some of those people probably really love Spider-Verse, which has a lot of fun with that stuff, and has kind of shown the world how to be creative and character driven with a multiverse story, and especially since then with Across the Spider-Verse, that actually goes to a lot of dimensions and does that whole thing. So there is a way to do that and it not bog the story down.
True, but it's less of a Doctor Strange movie at that point. And people already complain that this isn't enough of a Doctor Strange movie. I don't really agree with that, but
I feel like you could, and I mean, you know the comics of this character a lot more than I do, but this being a character that deals with a lot of like paranormal and like extra universe stuff, it doesn't seem like that much of a stretch to do a story with this character where he winds up in a bunch of different realities.
Yeah, but it's more of like
what makes that less Doctor Strangey, I guess, is my question.
Because it's more of exactly what you're saying, which is what this movie is more so focused on, which is Doctor Strange going into different like occult-like situations and dealing with monsters and things like that through different realities and different landscapes, while that is more so just Doctor Strange goes to different versions of you know, our universe and meets cameos like this. Like, I don't need Doctor Strange to go around meeting different Marvel characters throughout the whole movie
Yeah.
and things like that. Like, that's where it starts to become less of a Doctor
It's
Strange
not
movie.
it's not so much about parallel
I
Earths
don't
as it
need
is
Doctor Strange to put together
different realms.
a team of people like Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, sure.
Like, that is going not in a Doctor Strange place. Like, this stuff is where we're in Wundagore, and she's got like the big Cthulhu demon guys, and the entire like thing is, you know, a big temple to the demonic occult. Like, that's Doctor Strange.
So real quick, because we just saw it, I gotta mention when you get the Patrick Stewart reveal, Disney Plus did the most cynical corporate ridiculous thing and changed the subtitle there because I always watch these things with subtitles to X-Men 97 theme plays. And like, I guess of course they did, but I was still a little outraged by that, Austin.
That's funny. People have been asking about the super chats. I don't know if you want to tackle them now
Yeah,
or
let me
like in
go
a
ahead and get
bit.
to those. I'm sorry. I just kind of went down a
No, I mean, we've been like on a track. Like, it's chat. Sometimes you got to remember, like, it's hard to fit those in when we're in a roll.
well, I was just
But obviously, we're
apologizing
gonna get to
to
them.
the audience for kind
That's what
of
I'm.
going
That's
down
what
a
I'm.
rabbit hole with you. But Dan Schneider has $2 super chat and says, "F this movie. It's boring as a mother f."
If there's anything about this movie, it's not boring. I don't know. I mean, if you think it's boring, fair enough. But
I
I've
don't think
also
it
heard
is either, but I saw a number of people with that very comment.
when I remember people saying that this section is boring, which I can understand more so, but I don't know. I don't get boring. I just can't relate. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, and again, I'm somewhere, and I don't mean to be wishy washy, but I'm somewhere between you, Austin, and the audience, uh, where throwing multiverse in the title, I kind of to a lot of people screamed, especially since we're in the. I think this would be the argument people would throw at you, Austin, that we're in the multiverse saga. So the first time you put that in the title, it's as huge and expensive as a movie it is as it is, and you're not making it even more about that. Like, I kind of get that argument. I don't see how it's boring.
But even to that degree, I'm like, you're arguing for it to be more like corporate and play into the overall universe, and like, I don't know. I don't agree. I think the strength of this movie is that we're not doing as much of that. Like, it's just I don't know. I can't relate to that overall idea. I don't know.
Yeah, and I can to a degree. I mean, I really respect the fact that it's as much of a singular character piece as it is, and that it's, again, I don't mean to keep repeating myself, but even though I've got issues with the way it's accomplished, it's nice that it comes down to a a triad of characters that you can put on a spectrum and compare and contrast them and see how your villain. And I'm not praising it because it's formula, but I mean, when it's handled well, it's a pretty good formula where you've got a villain that is sympathetic, but so far gone that she's clearly supposed to be what Doctor Strange could be if he let himself go too far in the direction maybe he's going. And then America Chavez is the other side of that, where she's what Wanda thinks she is. She is completely the victim and cannot control herself.
Yeah,
But
I
has also lost her family and wishes she could get to it. Like, it is at the end of the day about those ideas, while there's still some like crazy fun fantasy stuff in the midst of it, and I appreciate that it's focused in that way.
yeah. No, I like how small this movie is, and like, I can appreciate more so this part's boring because this is the most. It's the MCU mandates, which is why I like that we then just kill them off and get rid of that. Uh, I don't know. I think that's fine. It's like it. helps me get through this section a little bit easier when the movie is not just going to become this for the rest of it.
And we just have different sensibilities. Like that can be handled in way too corporate of a way, like your Ghostbusters Afterlife and like No Way Home to somehow a lesser degree than that. But I do think you could have a little bit more fun with some of this.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, I think it stops being a Doctor Strange movie doing that. But I mean,
yeah, but that's my point, is that my sensibilities are different than yours. I don't come to this caring about Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? So
no, I get that.
Like, and I will admit that I'm sort of straddling the fence, I guess. But like, on the one hand, I appreciate that you want these things to just be about this character you really like, and I might have that if I was more of a fan of this character. Mm-hmm. But sometimes when I'm not as big into a character that's part of a larger universe like this is, when it does the grander world building stuff decently well, it helps me like it better. And so like if it's done well, I don't mind some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And you're like distracted by it and wishing it wasn't here. So you're like, oh, it's a mercy that we got rid of it as fast as we did. And I don't have that with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I do have? I'm kind of sick of these moments in these movies where we've got a character that we're with, that we're standing behind, and the camera pulls back like we're about to play a boss fight. And this movie does it like 3 times. And every time we do that, I'm really distracted by it because I'm ready to pick up a controller and play a boss fight.
Can I complain about the constant complaints about how Reed Richards is stupid in this scene?
What about it?
Because the whole thing everyone goes to is, oh, he's stupid. He tells Wanda what Black Bolt's power is. Wanda exists in his universe. Why would
she know that already?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
He has no reason not to know that she doesn't know who Black Bolt is. Because they all exist in a world together. Why would he see her and be like, oh, well, Black Bolt probably doesn't exist in her world? And also, the entire point is just that they're arrogant and cocky. Like, I don't know. I think people get too cinema-sinsy about things like that.
Yeah, I just never even really thought about it. But I guess I don't immediately... I'm sorry, just break it down for me. I don't really understand the point you're making with that first.
I said they all exist in a world together. So this Wanda came here. Why would he assume that she doesn't know who Black Bolt is? They all live in a world together.
Well, because... I don't know how... Okay, but there's a couple of things with that. First of all, you're almost arguing against your own argument when you say that, because if he would think she already knows who he is, why would she explain to her what he does?
He doesn't. He just says he can kill you with one word. It's a threat. He's not.
It's just a threat. Okay, I get what you're saying.
He explains what she's doing, what he can do.
Sorry, I just didn't understand the argument for a second.
No, it's okay. Sorry, I didn't think that I had to explain that part. So that's my bad. I just think people get really nitpicky about that, and it's like, I don't know, silly.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I needed a minute to process it because I've never heard that argument. I didn't know people were complaining about that.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But no, the other thing is, I don't know how much of a secret Black Bolt might be in this universe. Mm-hmm. It is possible that there are Illuminati members that don't go out in public.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, that's possible, but like... Yeah, I mean, it's just having to assume things at the end of the day about their universe, I guess.
Now, is that kind of an easy piece of writing so that she'll just go ahead and do that right then? Yeah, I mean, I guess, but...
Of course. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's easily explainable.
That doesn't seem like a real issue to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you on that. Wheelchair Symbol, $5 super chat. Walking out of the theater, I couldn't wait for 2 years to pass so Cap could analyze this. Oh, thanks. Well, I'm doing the best I can. in this format. Wheelchair Symbol, once again, $10 super chat. Appreciate it. Multiverse of Madness is undoubtedly the worst script in the MCU. I don't agree with that, but written in crayon, a film that contradicts itself every 5 minutes and breaks time and space. The Wanda character assassination is embarrassing, half a star. And I mean, a lot of people feel that way, Austin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. That's the way you feel. I don't agree, but I mean, I also don't think this is like an especially well-written film. Like I said, it's more so held up by how good the performances and direction is.
Yeah. No, it proves how much you can elevate a not great story, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like
or at
American
least
Chavez
not.
probably isn't especially great on paper, but she and Cumberbatch have such great chemistry.
Or
that
I
I
should
end up
say
really liking
more.
that character.
Yeah, I mean, I should say more not great writing because if there weren't any ideas at all here, yeah, there's no amount of great directing that would make it a passable film.
Yeah.
Like you gotta have something, right? But I will often say, and this is maybe a little bit hyperbolic, that if you don't have a great story in the first place, if you don't have great writing, like all of the other trappings are not going to save you. This is an example where they save a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But there is enough to sink my teeth into in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That I just think for me, I guess for a lot of people they don't have this, but I guess it hides a lot of sins.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think the choreography on their fight right there is really good too.
It's neat.
Yeah.
The more you mentioned that it feels like there was a Mordo movie in between.
That's one of the big ones. Is we do a fight with them with no powers because that feels like a way of subverting. We've seen them fight before.
Oh, sure, I didn't even think about that. But I was just gonna say the way I mean, we don't even write them out. Just the way we don't even include our regular universe Mordo is ridiculous to me. Like, it's really unfortunate the way we're setting him up to do stuff at the end of the first movie, and then at no point do we have him here to say the bill comes due. And our alternate universe Mordo has maybe the same worldview, and so we get some of that with him. Like, he's put together this entire like secret organization to keep the natural order. So like it's still sort of in there, but it's very weird not to even know where he is. And then when you find out the scene that they were gonna include to write him out, where he was just gonna get killed immediately, then I'm really glad he wasn't here.
Yeah, I actually
because that's not how you handle that.
I actually don't mind that he's not in this movie. I think it's fine. I agree. Like, I'm so thankful that we cut that because it means that we can have just a movie with him next time. If they don't do that next time, then it's a bigger issue. But I'm fine with it in the story because, like, I don't know, I don't feel like his presence is especially lacking.
Well, that's kind of my worry, is that we'll just never see him again. And I'm with you. For the sake of this movie, his presence isn't lacking, but it makes it less of a good sequel to the original.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't interested at all in that material, okay, but it's half and half.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any part of you that wishes Sam Raimi directed the first movie?
A little bit. I mean, I think I've said before, like, I'd rather.
And folks, we've now seen Professor X die for a third time on film.
Has it only been 3?
Yeah.
Weird. It feels like way more, but I guess it has only been 3.
Yeah, but that's still quite a few.
That's true.
It's pretty crazy.
He's catching up to comic Jean Grey.
He just keeps dying. I do think it's interesting that people. And I don't know, maybe these are different enough things to some people, but I do think it's interesting that that some folks were so angry about Hugh Jackman coming back for Deadpool and the Wolverine, and Patrick Stewart did it here first, and I didn't really hear that so much with that.
Probably just because that was his movie with Logan.
Yeah, maybe so. But I mean,
Professor X has already had a finale that they brought him back from.
yeah, that's true. But I mean, it was a really good last hurrah for that character too. Like,
Yeah. But you asked me if I would have preferred if Raimi did the first movie. I mean, probably. I like the first movie. I think it's a pretty good adaptation of Doctor Strange, but it's also in with the more vanilla MCU movies. I want to see what he does with a third movie to see what he would do, getting to start from the beginning.
yeah, and I had the best watch of that when I did an analysis on it. I thought it was real middle of the road, and I appreciated it a lot more after talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
No, yeah, I like that movie quite a bit.
but I think the best way to compare them for me is that movie has a much more polished story and smarter writing. And if this had just had another pass with maybe a better writer coming in and doctoring it, it would probably have surpassed that for me. So it becomes kind of a quality question more than the story that's being told question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. No, that's a tighter movie. I just think this is a better movie.
Yeah, and I have that's a big question mark for me. Like I like which is the better movie because this is more fun to me. Like it's more of what I come to these movies for.
Mm.
And then like the direction is just more inventive. Like if we start looking at it,
That's the big
just
thing.
the
The first
different
one,
aspects of a
acting.
movie. Yeah.
That's what I meant when I said like it's more vanilla, like middle of the road MCU is that it's just house style.
But it's that way in story a little bit too, in that it's kind of a typical origin thing.
Mm. But it also just is a good adaptation of Doctor Strange with that. So that aspect of it, I think works. I like that we went to the blue cloak thing with this universe. That's neat.
He's really lucky he brought that watch with him.
No kidding, eh?
That's a
Well, he's lucky that it's the same watch.
that's a little silly. Yeah, exactly.
It could have been a watch ball in this universe.
No, that's true. Well, we play so fast and loose with that stuff. One of the things that I have a hard time getting my mind around is he goes to later on he goes to a different Doctor Strange in a different universe and proves who he is by describing his tragic backstory, which could have been different in that other universe. Like, how does that prove anything? It could have been the exact tragic backstory, but the other Doctor Strange had a brother, not a sister. Like, it could have been anything.
Now, no version of Doctor Strange in the multiverse is a Clea. They all have a Christine Palmer.
Yeah, that's a good call too. That image with the head move thing you were doing, where we opened the door, was all over the advertising, and that
Yeah,
was.
I love how this stuff looks.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, it's really creative.
Don't make Rachel McAdams jump down. She's pregnant. Come on now, Doctor Strange. That's the thing I have with her throughout this whole movie is I'm like, oh, you're pregnant. Like, you're trying really hard to hide it. But
yeah, I didn't even realize that. So I guess I did an okay job with that. I didn't know.
So I'm also like programmed to notice that because
Oh,
my mom is, and like growing up watching things, she's like this. They're hiding that she's pregnant. See, they did this. They're hiding it. So I'm
wow.
like,
That's an ignorance is
exposed.
bliss kind of thing. I'm glad I don't have that.
When she shows up in this universe and she has a coat on, I was like, oh, she's pregnant.
John says this movie has an energy a lot of Phase 4 movies are just missing. I agree with that.
Yep.
A lot of people aren't with us on that, but that's how I feel about it. And I think this was elevated for me coming after things like Shang-Chi. that I thought was just fine, but like didn't do anything for me.
Hmm. Oh yeah, Shang-Chi sucks. That fight between Strange and Mordo when they have no powers is better than any fight in Shang-Chi. For a martial arts movie.
Yeah, and you know me, I'm almost like seeing a script before I'm seeing action. But that
I'm
movie,
just talking about because that's specifically billed as a martial arts movie.
yeah, I get that. But if I had been real engaged with characters, I wouldn't have cared if the fights were kind of crap.
Hmm. No, I mean just that whole movie's crap. I can't wait to do that on Rewind.
Yeah, and I just felt like I had seen it 100 times.
Hmm. Oh, it's the most paint by
I
numbers
I
Marvel movie.
struggled so hard to stay awake through action scenes.
Mhm.
Dan Schneider, $2 super chat. Are wet dreams also other dimensions? Stupid idea. Yeah, I had a tough time with the notion that they all are. I needed it to just not say that. It's it's too broad. It's too.
So I'm fine with that. I need Nightmare to be there if we're gonna do that. Like it's just it's the unfortunate reality of how this movie was made.
Yeah, even if you had that though, I do think it's kind of a dumb idea.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on that. Uh,
Well, I mean, you've I'm sure you've had dreams that you'd have a hard time imagining how that's all another universe. I don't know, like
there's
just
like infinite possibilities. It can be literally anything. There could be realities that are so far away from anything imaginable that it doesn't even seem like it could be possibly connected to us. Like I don't know. That's just the way I see it.
I just not to get too in the weeds with it. I just feel like it's not a very thoughtful idea. It's got to be a little bit more complicated than that, or there's at least got to be a little bit of discussion about it because dreams are just too connected to subconscious. So if it's some sort of a mixture of like what you've been thinking about lately can then take your brain to things that happen in other universes. Like when I was a kid growing up, that was an idea I was really fascinated by. The notion that like maybe a dream I've had, what I'm really seeing is another version of myself in another reality. I was pretty sure that even if that was true, there are certain dreams I would have that can't be that because it's just I was playing a video game all day and then I had a dream about Donkey Kong.
Mm.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like it has to be more
Yeah.
complicated than that.
By the way, because we were talking about it earlier, this is my favorite shot of the movie. I completely forgot. No, of course it's this one. When he's walking up the
We're
stair
just
to
going up the
heaven.
staircase.
Yeah, it's so cool. But yeah, fair enough about the dream thing. I don't know. I think it's just dependent on how your brain's wired. Where like you're more into the multiverse discussion thing than I am, so I'm like, whatever. Well, you want to like analyze that more because you're more into it.
Well, it just also is a big plot point that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
No, and I
And
agree.
wasn't real well thought out. It's that is an MCU problem to me.
Yeah.
Where like that's like the way they do time travel. Where they've given it no thought at all. I
Mhm.
don't love time travel stories either. Like I don't have to be into that idea to be irritated by that as a notion.
Mhm. I mean, it's more so that they break it completely at the end with the time travel thing.
Yeah.
But with here, it's just more so I'm like, I wish Nightmare was here because that's clearly what we're building on. So like, it's frustrating to me in a different way than what you're frustrated with. It's like it's just we're looking at it from two different lenses. Um, do you wish they did more with this backstory, or do you think it's fine?
Uh Yeah, I don't know. I've always been a little bit conflicted about it. It feels kind of odd that it isn't until now that it comes up.
Mhm.
It feels like that kind of writing 101 thing where this is supposed to be our protagonist and we're kind of walled off from him. But then you could also argue it's a character that is a little bit closed off
Mhm.
and maybe isn't really letting the audience in. And so that's like maybe you can get away with that more in this medium because we're not reading prose and in his head. So maybe it's okay that he's keeping stuff from us because
Mhm.
of the kind of character he is.
Yeah, I also just really
Not on the
like
same
this.
level as Batman '89, but there's a little bit of that.
Yeah, I also just really like the scene. I think you could build more on this, and I hope they do in the next one. But I'm glad it's here at least. But it would be cool to do more with it.
I was just so distracted by the assumption they're both making that their backgrounds would be exactly the same that I
It
had
would
a
have been
hard time
funny if it was just
appreciating.
like, what?
I had a hard time appreciating what they were even talking about
Mhm.
because again, it's just sloppy writing stuff that takes me as a writer and want to slap somebody upside the head. Like that's not how you do that. Stop it.
Oh, okay. But I think overall, this is probably the best scene in the movie.
And again, just establish how the rules work. You know, I mean, if you say that like these parallel Earths, like more or less everything works out the same with minor differences, then I have no problem with it. But
Mhm.
we never said that.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
I also really like and it's handled a little bit subtly. I also really like the motif through this. That's of course related to Doctor Strange's arc about even letting go more than he learned to do in the first movie. Uh, the the kind of classic Superman question of can you be a hero all the time and not have a personal life and be cut off from humanity and still not lose your humanity while you're spending all of your time saving them. And so this question, this are you happy question, is very much related to also do you think the ends justify the means, and would you do uh, anything to anyone in a super cold and calculating way because you think it's for the greater good. Like those are really related ideas.
Mhm.
And so I like that question keeps coming back. That are you happy question, and I also like that it's not wrapped up in a bow at the end where Doctor Strange, like now that he is maybe in a more peaceful place where he would be able to take that risk that she's
Mhm.
telling him to take. Um, he can maybe be in a relationship now, but he
Yeah,
doesn't
it's more so
immediately
setting.
get in a relationship at the end. I really like that.
He's completed an arc, and there's room for more story to continue from that. I agree. I really like how they handle that. And now
The,
we're in one of the most creative things in the MCU.
yeah, it's one of the coolest things I've seen in a superhero movie.
And it's one of those things that is completely silly, and I love it. Like when evil Doctor Strange catches the notes and plays like that like Dracula bit that people think is the Dracula theme, but it's not.
No, it's Bach, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's
No,
great.
but a lot of people always go, "Oh, it's the Dracula theme," and that's not what it is. But it's so funny. It's so great.
Well,
This is like this Doctor Strange stuff I want to see is just really inventive action scenes like this.
yeah, and you have to give Danny Elfman a lot of credit for it because he scored all of this. This
Yeah, and
this
I
is
think
all
a
this is
really
all
underrated
score.
score.
Say
Yeah,
again.
I just said I think this is a really underrated score too. I really like the score to this movie.
Yeah, and I'm gonna praise it for something that's gonna sound kind of weird, but
That
just
it's not
for
Elfman-y.
no for
Oh.
this well in places it's not. And that's kind of my point. In for this material, uh, it feels kind of all over the place and it works.
Mhm.
Like usually when I say that I'm complaining that a thing isn't enough of a piece and it's just throwing everything at the wall, it all feels distinct in like in the music that you need in the moment. It also doesn't all exactly feel like it goes together until you put it with this visual material. Like it's all over the place in exactly the right kind of way. There's also some just super haunting stuff in it.
Mhm. No, I
that
agree.
that makes me happy, particularly that piano stuff when I think it's when Wanda is walking through the other dimensions, Wanda's home in the first place. That stuff is wonderful. But then he also composes a really great kind of almost traditional superhero theme for America Chavez that would work as its own theme if she got a movie.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. No, and this is the score that I put on while reading Doctor Strange, which is not something I did with the first
Oh,
movie.
cool. Yeah, that's also just a serviceable score.
Yeah, it's one of those places where you can tell which things Giacchino's really into and which he's more so doing for
Yeah.
a paycheck.
Now the main theme is nice. It's pretty.
I've heard it's also kind of just his Star Trek theme, but I'd have to listen to both of them back to back to
Um,
really hear for it.
that's an exaggeration. There's
Fair
similarities
enough.
in them certainly, but it's not just his Star Trek theme.
Fair enough. That's just a complaint I've always heard.
Well, I don't agree with that. I've never heard that. I don't agree with that.
Doctor Strange has just entered Aldrich Killian's brain.
Well, he should get out of there. Don't
He's
go
like,
in there.
this is the part where Extremis is.
James Egan, 7.99 super chat. I appreciate you, man. I hated the only thing they could come up with for the multiverse is different traffic color lights. Seriously. Okay, I'm gonna take up for that a little bit. Cause first of all, like there's a little more like in fashions and things. But
Yeah,
the point
there's
was
quite
supposed
a
to
bit more than
be
that. But...
the point was supposed to be that it's a dimension like once removed. So it's supposed to look different enough, but not like super insane, like sci-fi futuristic. Which is why it is a little bit weird that they have the flashback device in that is a very futuristic technology, where it's like in the middle of this world that it looks like 2022. Except it's got weird traffic lights and
there's like plants growing out of all the buildings.
It's got crazy landscapes and stuff. Yeah. You also have the technology to pull people's memories out of their heads and show them to people. Like we're nowhere near that in the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
I love how in the commentary Raimi goes in his commentary he's like we didn't want it to be sci-fi, and I'm like okay, but that's very sci-fi.
And here is one of the best sequences of the movie. Raimi's having so much fun with all of this. Doctor Strange going into the dead Strange's body. And I think one of the coolest things that any of these movies do with him is him like taking dead souls and making a cape out of them. That's so cool. And just the right level of weird stuff for this character.
Yeah, I just thought it was nice that Feige and those guys let him get away with all of this.
Mm-hmm. No, Doctor Strange just became Dark Man. And he's gonna talk through the entire climax and give an emotional speech like this.
And it's not even gonna make sense that we can understand anything he's saying. He can't even close his mouth.
That's why it's great, and they never make fun of it. And if this were in any other MCU movie, they would have.
That's why it's annoying that it ever goes to those places. I'm glad it's rare, but
I agree. It does make those places a little bit more annoying.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think the first movie has some of the worst MCU humor instances where, like, it just keeps happening and none of them are needed.
Something we haven't talked about is places where, and the first movie didn't really do much of this at all, where it really goes to comic book and Ditko stuff, and will we'll do like not panels obviously, but like you've got those bits earlier where you have like montages of close-ups of people's faces like mixed in with other faces, and like all that comic panel stuff I really appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just got that bit where we take the whole background out and it's just him on black.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. And this entire third act is so full of trailer lines that weren't in any trailers.
Yeah, because if they put them in there, that it would look so much like a Sam Raimi horror movie. People might be weirded out about it and not decide if they wanted to go. Like there is a trailer you could cut for that would make it just look like an Evil Dead or a Darkman or something.
Oh my god, that electric guitar sting when he opens his eyes.
What about it?
That was just really funny. Like he opens his eyes, it's like, meow! Like hell yeah.
Yeah, well, that turns into a motif. That's a thing we start doing, and I hope it's in the next one.
No, I agree. So
like, I don't think it's funny. I think it's just cool. Like I think it's just kind of.
But I think it's both. Like I think it's fun, like kind of cheesy in a way that's both funny and cool. No, I was at a place where I was like, I would much rather prefer him to do an original movie again, and I still have that. But rewatching it today, like, yeah, just let Sam Raimi make Doctor Strange 3.
Well, it's also nice because you're gonna watch this stuff anyway, probably.
Yeah.
So, it's nice if it's more creative, like if you're gonna bother with it.
Yeah. Don't force him to do the next movie as like your next big universe event thing, and you have to tie into that. Just let him make Doctor Strange and Clea in the Dark Domain, fighting Dormammu and Mordo. It's fine. That's all you need.
But I'll come at it from the other angle and say there's a part of me that wishes that they would get Raimi on an event movie, just because it would be less paint by number and would take the risks I want to see those things take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if he were to have done the next Avengers, I'd say
I just feel like he would be great for Secret Wars, and
yeah,
it's
get not as safe as what they did.
No, it's not.
And I like the Russos. I think they made some pretty good Marvel movies. They're not really interesting visually. Their strength has always been more so just being good at balancing characters.
So Jason thought that line was really dumb and couldn't get his mind around it.
This time you have to do more than kill me. That's the one I was talking about, where he says something completely ridiculous, and we cut back to Rachel McAdams going like that.
Yeah, she's like, what are you even saying right now? No, it's great.
In any other MCU movie, she would have been like, "Did you seriously just say that?
I can't believe you said that.
Did you really say that?"
Matthew Bass, $5 super chat. He says Everything Everywhere All at Once coming out around the same time really hurt this movie, but like they're doing really different things.
Yeah,
and like Austin's saying, the focus isn't as much on the multiverse hopping thing. Like that's what that movie is actually about, but in a really character driven sort of way. No, I think it hurt. I personally at the time felt like it hurt No Way Home more than anything, but
yeah, I have it more with No Way Home and Loki. This is doing something different. Like there's elements of that in there, but they're the weaker elements of this movie. Like I don't know. It's stuff like this where they're firing on all cylinders.
Robert, $2 super chat says, Cap, how does food work in Star Trek? Is it free? Well, I was going to bring that up earlier with that whole food thing. Yeah, it is. And that's kind of the point, is once you have replicators and you don't have to worry about finite resources, you have to come up with a different system that's not based on a traditional economy. But if you have infinite resources, you can do that. So when she's like, food's free in most universes, I'm like, well, then most universes must have a replicator, because that's the only way that's possible. And then Bob the Hun, super chat.
Other universes.
Say again?
Said in most universes they have replicators.
That's the only possible explanation.
In those universes, Tony Stark does not get kidnapped, and he goes, "I'm going to make these things.
That's what he should do. And I would buy Tony Stark making replicators way before time travel.
The MCU universe is the only universe in the multiverse where Tony just drops the like clean energy thing he's doing in the first few movies. You're gonna cut that witch's ass.
Well, and actually, if you had replicators, you essentially would just already have a clean energy machine. Because what they are is matter energy converters.
That's what I mean. Is Tony like made that? Like that's how he made clean energy.
He would just do that.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a chance that they don't continue doing anything with Chavez moving forward?
No, I don't think so. I think we will probably see whatever they've been building with the young heroes.
I hope so. But, well, I say I hope so. I'm also worried that there'll be like two characters I really like in those.
That's my thing is, of those characters, like it's just her and Kate Bishop. I want the thing that we talked about off camera, Cap. Just make a Wong and America Chavez show.
That'd be great.
Call it Wong Chavez, America Wong. Do like a WandaVision thing.
I really like the way they beat Wanda.
I think it's really cool that
the
both Doctor Strange films end with giving their villains exactly what they want. And with the first movie, they're, like obliterated because of that. And in this one, as she realizes why she was wrong. I just think that's really neat for this character. That's kind of exactly what it has to be.
And then she just turns into Doc Ock and pulls a thing down on herself as we fade to black.
Except they will probably undo that eventually.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they will. Well, No Way Home technically also undid that, but...
No. Oh, sorry. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
We have also seen him again.
No, I had a split second where I was like, wait, they undid the Wanda thing? And what? Okay, yeah, no, Doc Ock, yeah. That is true. Well, you see, with Deadpool, we'll be like, no, we need Wanda, and then you'll get her back.
This is another one of those we're in the weird future things with superhero movie history where somehow we followed up a movie that brought back Tobey Maguire with a Sam Raimi directed Doctor Strange movie that is a follow-up to that movie. It's very strange that happened. None of us could have predicted that inevitability.
No. That's one of my favorite bits in the commentary with Raimi is when they're talking about the Spider-Man thing, the Spider-Man scene where they're talking about that. And the writer's like, oh, this is such a great scene where we're talking about No Way Home because no one remembers him. And the producer's like, yeah, it was the forgetting spell. And then there's just like an awkward pause. Then Raimi goes, yeah, I like that they're eating pizza in this scene. He's like, I don't care. I don't want to talk about that.
Bob the Hun had a GLA super chat and said the food line was a dumb political statement. I figured some people would read it that way, and it might have been. I don't know, but it just kind of read like a quirky joke that if you think about for 5 seconds, it doesn't make any sense. Chewbacca's Lover $5 super chat.
It's just a setup for the we're gonna beat up Bruce Campbell for a minute joke. I mean, sure you can read it that way, but I don't know. Who cares enough to be offended about something so innocuous?
Well, and it might be more offensive if they kept using Chavez as like a mouthpiece for some kind of propaganda or something, but it's not a constant thing they're doing.
Yeah. I agree.
She's just a kid with crazy powers she can't control. And her backstory is sufficiently tragic. Like, I like how weirdly traditional and modern she is all at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't know. It's so weird how well they do this character because I think both of us were ready to not be as crazy about her, and it feels like a mandate by Marvel that Raimi kind of falls in love with. To me,
Yeah. Oh, it was almost certainly a mandate.
oh yeah, absolutely.
We're like, we're gonna go ahead and bring this character in now.
Hmm.
She is like if, you know, we were talking about how much X-Men, how much mutant stuff there is with her. She's like if Rogue from the first X-Men was a lot spunkier, and it feels like a really similar kind of blueprint where they go to a character that is older in the comics and they age her down and they make it a teenage thing.
Hmm.
It's really weird how we did the Rogue thing with, of all people, America Chavez. But we
Yeah,
did. That's exactly what she is.
and Doctor Strange is Wolverine,
Exactly.
and Wanda is Sabretooth. Naturally. No, I mean, I guess that's fun if you were to take that to its logical extreme that she's her father. She's Magneto.
Well, and yeah, I had that at the end of this too, where it's like, and I don't think this is intentional, but it watches like almost a subversion of the end of X-Men. It's like if Doctor Strange is Xavier and Magneto at the same time, and he's trying to decide which direction he's going to go, because he's got he's got America Chavez, and he can kill her to get what the universe needs. Magneto did that with Rogue. I mean, not for the universe, but for himself. But I don't know. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was immediately making on this viewing. I hadn't thought of it before. I was immediately making comparisons to Rogue, and then I went, "Oh, and just like Rogue, you've got a guy that takes her and is going to steal her powers and kill her."
Hmm.
Like, how is there so much X-Men 1 in this?
I also feel like Raimi's maybe coming back and knowing that people criticized his Spider-Man movies for the romance stuff, because I think all that's done a lot better in this movie.
Well, and it helps that he can cheat and not make it an actual full-on romance.
Yeah, she could have ran away from the wedding in her universe.
She she sure could have, in slow motion, and for no reason. Just break up with him.
No,
Why did you get all the way to the day?
because it's dramatic, Cap.
Well, sometimes when you say dramatic, I hear stupid. I don't know.
I mean, are they not synonyms?
Sometimes they are. Sometimes justice and revenge are the same. Chewbox Lover, $5 super chat. This felt like another MCU film with some weird / different moments. A lot of our audience is down on this movie, and Raimi-isms, but it has all the same lame humor and everything is green screen.
I mean, I don't know. That last one's weird. Like,
I'm sorry to say that's just patently false. Like, there's definitely green screening in this movie.
that Wundagore mountain thing is a set.
And
like,
we can argue about how good it looks when they do that. But
no, there is some awkward effects.
But they
stuff in
built
this
a
movie.
lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of why it was so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
They built 4 city blocks of New York because they did it in the middle of COVID.
Mm-hmm. No, I remember Elizabeth Olsen talking about how she was really hoping she could keep that big Wanda mural that's in Wundagore. I don't know that she did, considering it's in Deadpool, but hopefully she owns that now.
the only places where I agree with you with same lame humor is just weird Doctor Strange one-liners that sound very out of character to me for
And a
him.
lot of it's in that
That I
Illuminati scene.
that I really hate. Yeah, that's
That's
true.
also where a lot of the bad green screen is, where like a lot of those actors clearly aren't on set together.
There's just these moments where he feels like he has no idea what's going on and like he's being dragged through his own movie, but it's not most of the movie.
Hmm. No, and I don't think he's really lost in his own movie.
No, I don't think he is. He is either. I think sometimes his characterization kind of is,
Hmm.
and then it comes back.
Where he's suddenly like way more snarky or goofy.
I think more often he just seems, when it happens for me, just seems like a dunderhead. And you can sort of see it in Cumberbatch's performance, where it's like, I don't know why I'm delivering this line right now.
He's like, why am I saying Illuma Wuddy?
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden I'm looking at Patrick Warburton wearing a Doctor Strange outfit, and I'm like, why is this happening right now?
Hey, America! Illuma Wuddy. That was the worst Warburton impression. I'm sorry.
My wife would be angry with you.
That's okay. Most women are.
The the POV shot from the watch is one of the most Raimi things in this to me.
Yes. That, and he got to do like an Evil Dead ending, which is kind of ruined by the after credits scene. But, and by kind of I mean is.
No,
but...
it is. And like I respect that they want to get ahead of it and go, don't worry, people that know what we're talking about, Clea will be in these, but I think it's, I don't know, I guess it's weird that I'm saying this because I don't want everything to be origin stuff, but it's very weird that you just have an established Clea that's already running around like that. Like,
it is weird that that's how we introduced her, and it just, that's a place where it's Marvel formula. Like, how many post Endgame MCU movies have after credit scenes like that, where it's like, here is a new character we're introducing, and none of them have come back.
so far, and we even did it with we even did it with the Blade voice off screen with Eternals.
Eternals does it twice, because you have it with Blade
Oh yeah,
twice, and then you have it with Star Fox and Pip.
yeah,
And
just
Thor
stop
does
it
with Hercules. I'm trying to.
Austin,
if they aren't coming to me, but
if they had to do it here, and I don't like this as well as the third eye thing. I also don't entirely understand why the third eye is happening, but and it's funny because in Raimi's commentary they don't either. They're all speculating about why that's happening now. Also, they're like something Darkhold, I guess.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's always been to me. Well, he used the Darkhold, and when he comes back, Wong's like, "Oh, I'm surprised nothing happened to you. Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yep." And then that's his punishment.
They couldn't decide if that was supposed to be the consequence for that or not. But then
that's so weird.
With the mid credits,
really?
it doesn't. It feels like just a new superpower somehow, as opposed to any kind of consequence, because now he's just using it.
Yeah, he's just using it.
That's part of why that shouldn't be there.
It's so weird.
But if you had to do it like Back to the Future 2 or like the end of the Super Mario Brothers movie or something, and have it be like Clea shows up before we get to credits and is like, Doctor Strange, I need your help on this adventure, and then they go, and then you're out. Like, if you had to introduce her, that's how you do it.
I also feel like it's, like the end of Homecoming. Sorry, I got like the names all confused. I was like, no, Homecoming.
It's one of those home movies.
It's one of the home movies where Aunt May is like, she finds out that Peter's Spider-Man, and we all go, oh my god, like, how are they going to deal with that? And you get to the next movie and they don't. It's like the after credit scene comes forward and goes, don't worry, we won't do anything with it, just like that. But they don't even wait until the next movie. It's ridiculous.
So I was just thinking with that Clea scene, I'm gonna read too much into this. I when so she's ripping into the dark dimension. That's clearly what that is.
Yes.
And they're gonna jump through there, and she's like, "Are you afraid?" And he's just gone through this character arc about like not having to control everything and facing his fears. And so he says no when they jump in. So Doctor Strange, in learning to let go, could accidentally turn right around and when like 360 degrees back to being irresponsible with his powers again for the opposite reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's how the third movie will finish his origin.
I wonder if they're gonna go there now.
You know what she should have said? We have to fix the universe. Are you happy, Steven? And then he would have been like, no. And then they jump in.
Oh, that would have been really depressing.
He goes, no, and then his eye opens.
And then he's like, I gotta go make more bargains with Dormammu. It's the only thing that makes me happy.
No, I don't know. There was a million ways you could have done a after credit scene with Clea. That was just not the way.
No, it wasn't.
I like that casting. I'm excited to see what they do with her and him.
Her costume is very silly.
Oh, it's super silly, but
she, as much as anything in the MCU, looks like an action figure already.
I know, it's awesome. And then in the next movie, she'll have a completely different costume to sell more action figures.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure, but I'm sad to say if they made Clea toys, those are probably the ones that stayed on the shelves that nobody bought.
Yeah, because no one knows who this is except for like us.
Well, half the audience gets up and leaves.
And that too, yeah.
Anthony Cabrera, 49 super chat. Sorry it took me so long to get to these guys. I don't know. I got sucked into like a time hole with this, where I feel like we should still have half a movie left.
No, it does feel like there's just so many things that it was like kind of hard to get through everything.
Yeah, and I know there's stuff we should have spent more time on.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But
I'm
no
sorry,
one likes
Austin.
this movie, so they don't care.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when you and I come at things from different places, we're trying to give our respective arguments each their due, and then you get it makes it difficult to hit everything.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he says something I would have liked to see is a 60s animated version of Doctor Strange as a universe, similar to what Spider-Verse did. I'm glad they didn't do that, because when they gave us a tiny glimpse of it, the way they did the animation was really half-assed, and I wouldn't want to spend a lot of time in that.
I also, because I've seen what they do with 60 Spider-Man, and it makes me sad. So if it was handled like that, I would have been sad. But
yeah,
no, what I want, because I thought that question was going a completely different direction. I want like a Doctor Strange show that looks like that new Spider-Man show. Where like take that Doctor Strange model and just give him his own show.
and I haven't really seen how the animation for that moves. Like I've only seen those production stills or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I never found that intro to send you.
I forgot all about that.
But like he and Iron Man, they showed off in that D23, not moving, just actually I think Doctor Strange is in the clip, but both of their designs are just the original like classic designs, and they're great. Give me that TV show.
Chewbacca's Lover, $5 super chat. Sorry, I gotta get through the rest of these. He says, how different this was from other MCU films was really built up for me, and I was let down. At no point did I forget I was watching an MCU film. I'm gonna go further with that and turn this back around as a praise I will give the movie, and say what was refreshing about it for me. I mean, it was different from an MCU movie in that I could see Raimi's fingerprints on it for better or worse, and I understand why for some people that's distracting. The thing for me is it was refreshing that this is just my opinion, but that it was getting away from some of the drab formulaic stuff of more recent MCU stuff, and it actually felt like I also was not forgetting I was watching an MCU movie, partly because it's doing interconnected stuff, but Austin, it in certain ways it felt like an earlier Marvel movie to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I agree with that. No, I watch this and I go, Oh, Raimi loves this character. Like that's a lot of what I get out of it. And
It just wasn't afraid to take some swings.
mm, yeah, it's not as safe as a lot of these have been.
Anthony Cabrera, $1.99 super chat. I'd love to see you guys do best MCU fights. That would be very difficult for me because I'm so not focused on that stuff. Like I would have to do some real research. Austin could sit here and rattle off 5, and I could not do that.
I mean, I don't. Okay, so it would be the Guardians.
Well, I'm not saying you should. You're gonna. We might do a video, Austin. You're gonna wait. You're gonna waste it.
Well, I was just doing it off the top of my head. It might not be what it is, and
Okay.
I assumed you wouldn't want to do that anyways. Oh, the X-Men '97 thing is not a change, Cap.
It's
in the credits.
Well, that's very strange if they had that from the beginning because that show wasn't even out yet.
But they were working on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hate it anyway. Because it's not the X-Men 97 theme, it's the X-Men theme. Like, stop it.
Yeah, that was weird. Doctor Strange will return in like 10 years.
Oh yeah, that's a thing you wanted to complain about. They gotta wait so many years in between these things.
I just hate how long it's taken for Doctor Strange to get movies. Like, come on now. Spider-Man had an entire trilogy between this movie and the first movie. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and also, it's not like they haven't made okay money.
No, this just missed $1 billion.
Which I didn't realize it did that well.
Because a lot of people didn't like it and went, oh, it flopped. But what they really meant is No Way Home hit $1 billion, so everyone expected this film to, and then when it didn't, everyone went, oh, well, it flopped. But, like, this is one of the highest grossing MCU films post-Endgame. Like, it's in the top 3.
Yeah, and the mainstream critics, the reviews were pretty positive, and it's one of those things where it's hard to tell what like general consensus is because it seems like a lot of like comic fans on the internet were not happy with it. It kind of had that Iron Man 3 thing.
Like I said, this movie reminds me a lot of Iron Man 3.
Yeah, but even
Not
in
just
the
like in the
even
plot,
in the reception of it, and I hadn't thought of that before.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I brought that up earlier. Like even in just how it's made, like it's a director with like a very specific vision coming in to do a sequel to this character, and it becomes very much their style, and then people didn't react especially well to it.
Yeah, I missed that you made that point. It's kind of like the Mandarin thing where people had a real clear idea of what they thought it was supposed to be, and then that's not what they got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I also don't mean to say that that's not invalid either. I just don't personally feel the same way about it. I could totally see, especially back when it came out, you're excited to get a really menacing Mandarin that maybe finally brings some magic stuff to these, because we didn't really have that yet at that point, and then that's not the direction it goes at all. Like it is fair to not be happy about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is one of those things where I hear more people who don't read Iron Man complain about the Mandarin thing, but I also get the Mandarin complaint if you're an Iron Man fan and you're like, oh well, I wanted more of that, because I get that. I like their twist on it. I think it's interesting for that character. It's more frustrating now that we had the real Mandarin.
Yeah.
And people
like that
immediately picked up on that, even though he's way worse. But anyways,
I didn't, and I won't harp on Iron Man 3 for too long, but I just want to mention this real quick, which is when that came out, I was kind of lukewarm on it. I thought it was just fine. And the more I wrote about it, or the more time I spent with it and talked about it and wrote about it, the more I appreciated a lot of story stuff that Shane Black was doing in that movie. And so what I want to say is I think it can be kind of hyperbolic to say this thing disappointed me because it didn't go where I wanted it to, and that makes it terrible. Like if you spend some time with it and take it on its own terms, maybe you'll appreciate it for what it is, even if it's not what you wanted. But I also don't want to dog on anybody for just not liking a thing. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to explain yourself. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
let me see if I missed any other super chats real quick, Austin, and then we'll go to ratings. I think that fights question was the last one. If anybody sees anything I missed, please let me know in the comments. Austin, one thing we didn't talk about, and you'll remember things about the show better than me because you saw it more than I did, and because I just haven't until this week I haven't thought about it in a while. I wish I'd had time to go back and just rewatch WandaVision. But how do you feel about the way Wanda's handled this movie in how well or how not well it matches the ending of that show? Because that's an issue people had, and I was just wondering what your take was on that.
My thing has always been I have more issue with the end of WandaVision where she gets off too easy, and then it kind of leaves it up to this movie to kind of pay off some of that stuff.
Yeah,
so
that's what I
don't-
had. And that's why I was so shocked and kind of satisfied by her being the villain of this, because I was in that camp of people that was like, oh, they're gonna wash that, or they're gonna sweep that under the rug, and she's gonna be redeemed immediately.
Mhm. Yeah, no, exactly. So I would say in terms of that aspect, I think I prefer how this handles it than that did. I like WandaVision a lot. The stuff I like in the finale is more heard with the kids and Vision at the end than the way we kind of wrap it up. But I don't know. I don't have the issue where I think they regress her. I think they're kind of like actually dealing with some of that stuff as opposed to WandaVision.
Yeah, I agree with that. At least from as well as I remember that from what 3 or 4 years ago now.
hmm Yeah, and I mean, this movie, they were making it without really a lot of talk between projects, which is really weird because you would think that the MCU would be like, okay, this is what's happening.
Well, and it was such an 11th hour change
hmm
that once again, like with a lot of this stuff, it's amazing it lines up and holds up as well as it does.
hmm Because, like Robert says, she kind of has the same character arc, but I just think it's handled better here. Well, the show just kind of goes, she's good now, and they're way too soft on her by the end of that show.
The only thing I think is maybe a little bit of a cheat is that we're as ambiguous as we are about, and I mentioned this earlier, but just how much of an influence the Darkhold is, because that might be a way for us to redeem her later.
Mm-hmm.
And we might, in a different movie and maybe a lesser movie, Austin, really double down on that and say she wasn't responsible for anything she did in this movie because of the Darkhold. And I really hope that doesn't happen, but it totally could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
they can say she's not responsible for any of this.
That's sometimes the issue when you're swapping between creative teams, right? Where I feel like that's what the WandaVision people do, and then I think this movie comes in and doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you could very easily do that next time.
And I also, like I said earlier, just wish that there was some discussion about other solutions she might have made to this problem. And that's not to say that she should have taken them and then there's no movie. It would help us see just how far gone she is, and it would just have other characters asking the logical questions that the viewer is asking. And I think if we did that, some of the people that were really out with this immediately when they went, well, why doesn't Wanda just create more children? I might have appreciated the movie more, because that it's sort of like the why doesn't Thanos just use the Infinity Stones to make more resources? There are people that are not bothered by that like I am, but the question should have been raised. There should have been a discussion about it in the movie, and then you can move on after that. It's weird that the movie feels not thoughtful because it's not asking the logical questions the audience is asking. Just bring it up for a minute, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's kind of worried about being bogged down by some of that stuff.
Yeah, and I get that, but I think it airs on the wrong side with it.
Fair enough. I don't know. I've never had an issue with that. Like, I think it's believable that she wants to get like actual children, as opposed to going back into the hex thing. Could you have had a scene where she stops and explains that? Absolutely.
Yeah, but the other argument I'd throw at you, Austin, is you saw that show and not everybody did. And that might be confusing for an audience that didn't know what exactly the stakes with Westview were and what the resolution of that was.
But does it also make, like, you also wouldn't be asking that, though, if you haven't seen the show, because you wouldn't really know that she could do that.
Well, if you're paying close enough attention or you watch it a couple of times, Doctor Strange says she created them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know she's ultra powerful. So you could, if you've not seen that show, you could put two and two together and say, if she created them, why can't she create them again?
But he also says she created them and, says that they're not real. And, like, she's after the real ones. So, like, I don't know. I think...
But her, and I don't mean to go in circles, but then her argument immediately after that is basically, no, they were real to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 'cause, like, emotionally they were.
Right. So why can't they be emotionally real to you again by just making them again?
Mm. Yeah.
The only reason I'm not asking that question is because I have WandaVision and I kind of can connect the dots. I'm also not even 100% sure I'm right about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is tissue missing there that needs to be there.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't really have an issue with it, but, like, it's, if you do, that's fine.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that's why I'm seeing that side of the argument. It doesn't kill the movie for me, but it does for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe not a lot, but I've heard people that have complained about this, and I wanted to address it. But anyway, let's go ahead and go to Patreon ratings, Austin, and if you would bring up Discord, I'll bring up Patreon.
Oh, this one. Sorry, I was, for some reason, I think because it was so far away, I was like, channel is it in? Okay, there we go. I got it.
And the ones on Patreon are in a consensus completely against us. So it'll be interesting to see if Discord looks that way as well.
Very good. No, we have 3 on Discord.
You and I are on an island on this.
Mm-hmm.
And we have disagreement about what works and what doesn't, but like I like this movie quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But I just want America Chavez to get a spinoff. Oh, something I meant to say that I think would be a really amusing drinking game with this movie, Austin, is every time somebody says something about America that out of context is hilarious if you're thinking about the country.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever had that with this. There are 5 or 6 lines where it'll be something like if America falls, the multiverse is in peril, and it's just it's hilarious. Like
that's when Raimi should have had his trademark American flag. Like he should have landed in front of the American flag and then said it. Come on, Raimi, you're slacking.
There's a bunch of places where we just use America's first name and out of context with whatever you would think the country is doing. Amusing mental pictures happen. It's great.
That's awesome.
Okay, I'll go and read Patreon, and then you can read Discord. Chewbacca's Lover, it sucked. I just wanted to stop there. A bunch of CGI nonsense and typical MCU crap, also too long. And obviously, like just with everything we've said, and we've been talking to Chewbacca's Lover, I don't agree with much of that, but especially not too long. I could have used another 15 minutes.
It kind of has to be full of CGI. I don't know. I'm
sorry, Austin. I was talking over you.
No, I just said it's also a Doctor Strange movie. Like, it kind of has to be full of CGI.
Well, yeah, how do you accomplish the magic stuff without CGI?
But
Yeah, it is kind of weird. It feels like we're to a place where some fans will see special effects and immediately decide they're bad special effects. But I'm also a person that has been pretty critical of MCU CGI, so I don't mean to sound like a hypocrite, but like
mhm.
there's there's places where it is well integrated, and there's places where we might be too ambitious, even in 2020, whatever, to make it look as good as we would like to, and this is just as good as it's going to get. And I think this movie has a few shots like that, where it's like, maybe someday we'll even be able to make this look better than it does right now. But that's just how
Well,
ambitious
and
those
even
shots
then, I
are.
think a lot of it's just MCU crunch as opposed to just we can't
Yeah.
make it work. Like, it's just a lot of these are rushed and just don't have the time they need.
And this is even more rushed than any of them have ever been.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Or at least it's way up there. Because we've never seen them replace a director that fast, like that far into the
Mhm.
production on a thing. I something else I meant to mention earlier is it's weird to get a Doctor Strange movie where there's no astral projection. It's like we replaced that with the what do they call it? The dream walking.
Hmm. No, it is a little weird we don't get any astral projection. I'm glad we only used the mirror dimension in that one bit with Wanda.
Yeah, me too. I I also forgot to mention the and it's also cool because it came so late in the script writing process. But I really like the bookend with the dead Doctor Strange, because like you don't expect the body to come back.
Hmm.
Like you were talking about how cool of a visual it is, but it's also kind of neat.
And the structure
Just story
perspective.
structure wise,
Yeah.
that like that was a setup and payoff thing. Okay, like that's kind of inventive.
Yeah. No, because you see that part where he buries him and you just think it's like a cute little joke and then it ends up being set up.
Yeah, and it's a really great excuse to have the classic like hand coming out of the ground thing, and like all of that felt pretty earned to me.
Hmm.
Like it was a really good excuse. Like, does it watch a little self-indulgent when you're thinking about who's making it? Maybe a little bit, but also it's third act, and it's been spending the whole movie like setting up things to eventually get us there. Like it's, I think ultimately kind of earns it, you know.
And who cares? Like, MCU needs more director self-indulgences at this point. Like, they've become too focused on the house style.
Yeah, that's fair. But I'm just saying it would be indulgent if it was the kind of movie that doesn't call for any of that, you know? Like,
Yeah.
if Sam Raimi is making a Spider-Man movie and just all of a sudden you cut to that scene for no good reason, you're like, oh, you're just doing this because you're Sam Raimi. That's weird. Like, don't do that. Which I
Yeah.
always had a little bit with that. I like it a little bit more now, but
No, because I
with that
said
Doc Ock scene.
earlier, his horror sensibilities fit Doctor Strange better than
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
it's just right for this,
Mhm.
sure. I
Absolutely.
Also with the with the Dead Strange thing, you of course just kept going to cool Raimi movies. What was exciting about it for me in the theater was I'm a Marvel Zombies fan,
Mhm.
and it looked like that. Like it was like a straight up Marvel Zombie. That made me very happy.
Well, I remember when he was cast, when he was picked as the director, a lot of people thought that we would go to a Marvel Zombies universe. Um, and I think a lot of people had that just because of the Ash versus, or the Marvel Zombies versus the Army of Darkness comics.
Yeah. It kind of proved that maybe you could do that in live action
Hmm.
if you wanted to. And I would not personally be opposed to a whole live action movie that was just that, like one time set apart
Oh,
from everything else. Like that'd be fun for me. But
only if they all talk the way Doctor Strange does when he's in that body.
oh yeah, but you'd have to. It'd be great. No, just go full tilt ridiculous with it.
Hmm.
Joe Turner, I found this first Doctor Strange pretty lifeless outside of the climax. This, by contrast, is full of life and energy. Okay, so this one actually does like this. I guess
I was gonna say, when is this gonna take a turn?
I guess I read the beginning of this and thought it was going a different direction, and I get a kick out of how far Raimi pushes the film's PG-13. Very entertaining all the way through, but due to the director, far more than the scripting hero. And you and I said a lot of that. Okay, so I was wrong. There's one person that's kind of with us. Justin Hayes, Strange has next to no growth. Chavez is annoying, and Wanda feels like a Venom-esque unwanted studio mandate that rushed the plot at Warp 11. The Raimi-infused imagery/tone does help a lot, but aside from that, almost nothing about this works for me. Villain. I didn't know Bag didn't like this movie.
Bag also hates horror, so...
I
didn't know Bag hated this either.
And you know me, I'm not a giant horror person, so there's got to be other things to grab onto. But unless it's zombies, and then I'm fine. James Egan, $2.99 super chat real quick before we get to the other ones. Should Vision have been mentioned or addressed? Well, he is. I mean, what exactly happens to him at the end of WandaVision is not talked about, but he is briefly discussed.
I think it's more so, and this is something I've always had, which is it's strange that she just wants her kids and not both of them back. But I think it kind of plays like WandaVision's character arc is more about being okay to let Vision go, and then this one's more about letting the kids go.
I'm really glad this came up because that was a thing that was always really distracting to me with this movie, and I forgot to bring it up while we were watching it. But I would love to know what the situation, what the status quo is with Wanda in that other reality. Like, she just seems like a very happy, doing fine single mother. And, like, maybe she is, but, like, who were the kids' parents? Like, I mean, who was the kid's father, I wonder?
They should have brought in Bruce Campbell as Wonder Man. He just walks in. That would have been awesome.
But, like, it adds maybe another like weird, odd, maybe even creepy wrinkle to WandaVision if she created children unknowingly based on real children somewhere in another dimension that another Wanda had with another man, and Vision is just standing in as the father. And thematically, if that's retroactively what it's doing, that's kind of interesting because it's a Vision that's not actually really real.
Yeah, for sure. You know what this movie's also lacking as well? Where's Ted Raimi?
Oh yeah, sure.
Why isn't he in this movie? He should have been Wanda's husband.
But yeah, it watched to me like they momentarily forgot that children have fathers. It's really weird. There's no mention of that at all.
Yeah, Dad's just not in the picture.
Austin, go ahead and read the other.
Oh, you're done with the Patreon ones? Okay.
Yeah, that was just another super chat I wanted to throw in there real quick.
Okay, no worries. Sorry, I assumed that there were more.
No, you're good. It was just the three.
So this is from John. He says, it might be watered down, but undeniably a Sam Raimi movie. This is so much fun and has become one of my favorite MCU movies despite its problem. Spelled incorrectly, John. Come on. Rating, hero.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm right there with John.
Super Billy says, wanted to like this movie more than I did. Unfortunately, solid direction and clever set pieces aren't enough to compensate for undercooked characters and story. Though I'm glad it's one of the few MCU films where a director was allowed to put their stamp on it. Rating supervillain. And that's really low for being like, I really like all this aspect.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You do you, boo. MattBat68.
It's all right, supervillain.
Nemesis. MattBat68. Flawed but consistently entertaining. Raimi's style might be watered down here, but at least I can tell he directed it. Rating hero.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And quick plug for Patreon. If you would like to leave one of those yourself, and you didn't do it this time, we read those every show, and just the $5 tier makes that happen. You don't even have to be a Patreon producer to get those in. Austin, let's go ahead and go to our ratings. Would you like to start, sir?
Yeah. I guess I'm giving it a completely different rating. I'm gonna give it a superhero. I really like this movie. I think it's got issues, but not enough that it drags the movie down in any way. I enjoy it a lot. I also think it's one of the better MCU films. Yeah. I don't know. What's your rating?
Real quick, Robert says not a critique, but you are, though. Cap's rating system, but it really should be a villain option between hero and supervillain. The reason I didn't do that is because I wanted a middle-of-the-road option. So just because of the way we labeled them, it looks lopsided because you end up with 3 that sound positive and 2 that sound negative. But really, that was just a way to make it a 5-point scale instead of a 6-point scale. Because that feels kind of weird. It's odd to me to not have a thing that's right in the middle.
Well, it could be nemesis, supervillain, villain, civilian, hero, superhero.
Civilian? Not even civilian. Civilian.
Civilian. Well, no, I just slanted it, but I did say civilian.
Yeah, but I was just thinking with that scale to be a villain, civilian.
Civilian.
But yeah, I'll take it under advisement. Austin, yeah, I'm somewhere between hero and superhero, and I find myself doing that irritating thing where you want to be consistent, where I'm thinking about like all the other MCU movies that I would put above it, and I'm like, are there enough that it makes sense to just go hero? But I don't know. I've got enough like first draft kind of issues with it, just story wise, and I always come at this a lot more from a pure story perspective than anything. Where like I'm pretty entertained by this movie, but I don't know if I can go any higher than a hero on it.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think superhero would match my review, so I think I'm gonna go with hero. I think I gotta, but it's a lot of fun. I really like watching it.
No, it's the second best post Endgame MCU film easily.
People are telling us we should put anti-hero in the rating system. Look, this is the first format that we've had for this show that I've been more or less completely consistent with so far. I don't want to start changing things now. Austin's getting tired. We got to get this knocked out.
No, it's something in my eye.
Yeah, it's called tiredness.
It's called nightmare. He's finally made it.
Yeah, get that nightmare out of your eyes. Dude, I won't lie. I was a little disappointed.
Spider-Man's eyes behind him. Do you remember that with that background?
Yeah, it was great. I was a little disappointed when you told me that this was supposed to have Nightmare in it.
Yeah, I think because when Whedon was brought on to Avengers, if I remember right, I think he was like, yeah, I'll do this first one, but what I really want to do is Ultron. And so that's the second one. And I think Derrickson had the same thing, where he was like, what I really want to do is a Nightmare movie. And then
when we couldn't do that, he's like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
Plushy DX said that at one point I said this was in my top 10 MCU films. See, I don't remember things that I've said. I don't know. I also always say it's based on my last viewing of this, and I feel like after a lot of what I said in this review, it would be kind of odd of me to go as high as superhero. But I don't know. I'm waffling. I'm real back and forth with it. This is on a pure enjoyment scale, sure, but that's not what I do on this show. So I feel like that would be wrong, Austin.
No, and I would be like a high superhero. I really like this movie.
Okay, so I forgot to bring up the ranked list, so let me do that real quick. But have you already got your ranking figured out?
Yepers.
I said I don't want to change things. I did change that. We do rank things now, and I got to remember to do that. I'm really sorry you have a nightmare in your eye, though. That's real unfortunate.
No, it's just a Wanda now. It got replaced.
They changed it. Somebody left over creative differences.
Yeah, Derrickson went to make a okay horror movie.
Apologies, folks. You're seeing black right now. I just gotta get this in here. Okay. Austin, where did you put it?
I put it at number 4.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I see it there. I have not given this any thought. I have no idea where I'm going to put mine.
Did you ever put the Dark Knight Returns movies into your list? I remember last time you were like, I don't know.
I have not gone back and done that yet. So mine's not updated. I guess I'll just get mine on there and I'll tell you what it is next time.
Mm.
I'm going to be like that. Let me just look at the list real quick and I'll at least make kind of a guess at it. This is very professional.
Oh, Cap, what are you doing?
I don't know. I'm streaming too much. That's clear.
Now it's raining really hard.
Oh, is it? I haven't seen any giant crashes of lightning in a while.
Nope, none of that. Just really, really heavy raining.
We've gotten so much rain here this year. It's been nuts.
Yeah, it's been like such a non-summer here. Really unfortunate.
Okay, so I'm looking at my list, and this is not with Dark Knight Returns in it. Did I not even commit to a place with it?
No, I think you were like, I'll figure it out, and then add them if I remember right.
And then I just haven't done that yet.
I mean, if you want to add them both now.
I thought I said yeah. Well, and I'm not gonna go in there and do that right now, but I'll try to guess at where it's gonna go. But yeah, I thought I said I was gonna throw Dark Knight Returns like maybe between Spider-Man 2 and Powerpuff Girls. I think that's where I said I was gonna put it.
I think you said you were torn between that and between Powerpuff Girls and The Shadow.
Oh, that's right. Maybe that's where it goes.
I think.
Yeah, that's hard to say. Okay, well, at least I have a good sense of where to start when I go back there. Mm-hmm. And then this movie, you know, I think this goes between 89 and Spider-Man 2.
Oh, okay.
I think even just giving it a hero, I think I still like it better than Spider-Man 2.
So we're both pissing everyone off and putting it over Spider-Man 2 is what you're saying.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah, sorry folks, it's just how I feel about it.
If you're very angry right now, leave a comment. Say
leave a comment on our web zone.
Shake your fists at us and say, "How dare you?"
Yeah, because you have the right to do that. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. I've occasionally
sweet engagement.
I've occasionally shaken my fist at things. Okay, we're now going to announce our movie for next time, and Austin and I don't even know what it is yet, but we know...
we just got a super chat, too, about doing something next.
Oh, I thought you were going to say shaking a fist at us.
I wish.
Robert says he's angry, but just in general. James Egan, $7.99 Australian, thank you. Please do Watchmen next. It's the anniversary for it, and you have never done it before. Would love to know if your opinion has changed at all on it. We've been talking about that, and we're going to try to get that in before the year is out. I am not prepared to commit to a movie that big next week.
Well, especially because we were talking about doing the comic as well.
Yes.
Like we did with Dark Knight Returns. So probably later in the year, but we were both saying that we wanted it to be this year. So,
but I've got too busy of a week next week, and we just did Dark Knight Returns, so I'm not ready to turn around and do another big like comic movie combo like that. That took out a lot of my week last week, and it was great, but I need some time away from that. And Austin and I might have to, or might be trying to do 2 requests next week to make up for one that we missed this week. So like it's not going to be the week for that. I also took another movie off of the list for the same reason, Austin. I guess I real quick should just announce what we're doing, which is we put on the wheel movies that are in our bottom 10 for our top 100 movies, which we just started. We're doing this somewhat as a plug for the series, but we're doing an ongoing series listing out, and it's going to be very lengthy. Each of our 100 favorite superhero movies of all time. We've already revealed the bottom 10, so 100 to 91, and one of the movies on that list for Austin was Long Halloween, and I went ahead and took that out for the same reason. Because I'm just not prepared to do that. Because I would want to reread that book. I have reviewed that, so we wouldn't have to review it. But I would need to give that another read, and I'm not prepared for another big 2-parter like that.
Absolutely.
So sorry about that, Austin. Sorry to knock that off the wheel there. I'm just trying to make you angry.
I'm so pissed.
So the movies on this wheel are as, and I also took off anything that that we've done already. Obviously, there were a couple things like that. Austin had Logan on that list, which I'm gonna have to do a scripted review for soon. So I pulled that off, and I think that's pretty much everything. And then anything that was too recent.
And probably G.I. Joe and Transformers, I'm guessing, too.
Yeah, just because we haven't been including that stuff for this series.
Yeah.
Up to now, and I'm like, I'm open to it, maybe eventually, but we've got so much on the list as it is.
I just like the idea that it's like, okay, we got both of our bottom 10s, and then I think I have like 3 in there after all the qualifiers. I'm not complaining. I just think that's amusing.
It is. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. No,
I don't care.
It's more than 3, but I have more things on here. Watch you get one anyway.
I mean, I don't care. The last things I have on there are like Ant-Man and Thor.
That's what I was gonna say. Is a lot of the things that are on here from your list won't be things you'll want to do. So
exactly.
Get excited about it. It'll be one of those.
Or I guess.
Oh, you know what? I did put Blue Beetle on here, and that is too recent, isn't it?
That is too recent. If we get it, just do it again.
No, I went ahead and took it off. I mean, it's not hard to take it off.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you had to like go into like an edit screen and whatnot.
Nope, it's all on the same page. I just have to refresh it. Okay, anyway, without further ado, so here are the movies on the list right now. Oh, it looks like it kept it. Okay, if we hit it, we'll just spin it again then. It's still on there for some reason. I took it off. I don't know what's happening. Maybe I forgot to save it. Maybe there's a save button. Anyway, whatever. So it's The Phantom, Sky High, Defendor, TMNT, the second Lego Justice League movie, Deadpool, Ant-Man, Thor, Incredible Hulk, and Superman 4. And Hulk. So both Hulk and Incredible Hulk are on here, Austin.
Wild.
Wild. All right, here comes the spin. Let's find out what we're doing next week. And it is... Oh, The Phantom.
So I have to finally watch that.
That'll be interesting because you've never seen that.
Well, hopefully it doesn't make my top 100. Because then I'm going to look like an asshole.
Well, no, I hope so that you can say it like that again. No, that'll be fun. I haven't watched that in a long time.
Yeah, it should be a good time.
And I'm curious to see your response to that because there's some funny things in that movie, and I think you'll have fun talking about them.
Yeah, for sure.
So that'll be great. And that'll be a nice off the beaten path thing. I also think that as we go through that list, we should maybe occasionally do wheel spins based on the list. I think that's fun.
The real question though is, do we do a wheel spin based on the last 10 that we did, or just all of the list up to that point? Like, if we do it again at like 50, do we then put all 50 from each into the list?
Yeah, we could do that too.
So it's like an even bigger pot.
That's a very fun idea, actually.
Hmm.
I say actually like I'm surprised you had a good idea. Sorry,
Oh, yeah.
sorry about that.
Got an acid tongue.
It's not what I mean. Yeah, sorry. I've turned into an asshole. Anthony Gabira slam evil. Yeah, have you seen the poster for the
I've seen it where
Phantom?
he's like that, but does it say Slam Evil on it?
Yes, that was
That's
the
funny.
tagline. It was slam evil.
That's why that movie bombed.
Yeah, because it looked like it had no chance at being any good.
Well, people refuse to see it based on principle, just on Slam Evil.
You're telling me you wouldn't watch a movie that was just called Slam
I
Evil?
would.
You totally would.
I would. I'm talking about normies.
Oh, people that can't appreciate the artistry of a movie called Slam Evil.
Exactly.
Well, folks, thanks a lot for watching our commentary on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and we will see you again next week for The Phantom. If you're watching live right now, I just want to mention that tomorrow, I gotta go to bed, because tomorrow, John and I are going to be watching Smallville all day, which we haven't done in a lot of months, and we're finally getting back to the series now that my new baby in the house is a lot older, and I am able to do that again. So we're going to do the first half of season 6, and we're going to be doing seasons that I don't know as well. So it'll be a lot more from my end, kind of reactiony and riffy, and maybe a little less analytical. But it should be fun if you like that show, or if you want to see people make fun of that show, because I'm sure there will be make funning happening. That's not a sentence, but it's late. I said it anyway. 10 o'clock Central tomorrow morning is when we're starting that. So I got to get going. But thanks a lot for watching. And if you want to become a Patreon producer, $10 on Patreon makes that possible. You get to hang out with us on the Discord and help us pick movies for Rewind pretty frequently, and you also get your name read at the end of every show, which I'm going to do right now. So thanks to all of our producers at $10 and above, and appreciate all of our patrons and all of you viewers. Don't feel left out just because you're not supporting us monetarily, but we do want to call out people that do that. We really appreciate you, including Breezy Hemi, Jesse Surtees, Chewbacca's Lover, Dr. Hello, Goofster123, Joe Turner. Some of these folks we just talked to this evening. Jojira, John Matthew McLean, Super Billy, Victor, Abix Stark, Adam March, Damon Begay, Hot Soup, Invisipig, John Sandoval, Kareem Roberts, Matthew Brody, Michael Martin, Miguel Rodriguez, This Guy is the Day Ghost, Unknown Passenger, and Wendell Jones. Appreciate you guys. Once again, we'll see you again next time. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin, the Day Ghost.
Bye, everybody. That's zombie me.
Bye, folks.